Right. Let's dive right in. So let's go over our list of Kiss albums from worst to best, or maybe I could do from best to worst. Shake it up a little bit. No, actually, let's leave it.
Radical.
Let's leave it. So at the bottom is
Not ready for that.
dangled the carrot. So at the worst, at number 19 is Gene's solo album. That is not a very good album. At number 18 was our latest entry into our list, which is Hot in the Shade. That is not a good album. That is a long album. I would actually put it... is it second from bottom? Is it second from bottom?
No, we must have put it above Elder.
I thought we did it. I think this is wrong. I thought we put it above Elder because I thought it was worse than Elder. I would have put it... All right, we'll sort that out at the end. It's not a good album.
Okay, we'll sort out at the end.
Okay, we'll sort at the end. But I swear down, we put it at 17. Because I actually think it's worse than Music for the Elder. But no one else agreed with me. Anyway, carry on. Music for the Elder is number 17. That's not a good album. Hotter Than Hell at number 16. That is also a very bad album. Rock and Roll Over, which is a really bad album. That's number 15. Self-Titled at number 14. Not a good album. Number 13, Love Gun. A lot of filler. One banger, though, and one kind of semi-banger. Pete Chris' solo album. An undiscovered gem of an album. Banger after banger. A criminally low on the list. Should be higher. Number 11 is Dressed to Kill. That's a fucking boring album. That should be lower. Absolutely. Animalize. Fine. Asylum. Okay. Dynasty. Some bangers. There are some bangers on there. Lick It Up. One banger. One beautiful song off that record. But mostly not great. Terrible ending. Terrible run of 3 of songs from Gene. Not very good. Destroyer at number 6. Better. Okay, some classic songs. Paul at number 5. Fine. Pretty good. Pretty good album. It's alright. Ace's solo album. Engaging. Fun. Different listen. Pretty good. Unmasked. Criminally underrated. Some bangers. Quite a lot of bangers on that one. And number 2, Creatures of the Night. A solid, decent heavy metal album. And at number 1, their best album by a country mile. I'd recommend it to absolutely anybody. This is a fantastic album. Crazy Nights. Banger after banger after banger. But we're not here to talk about those albums. We're here to talk about Revenge. So, this is going to be quite a sad episode, sadly. There's not much funny stuff that happens. But it's important to give context to the album. So, let's just dive right in. So, for the background, we need to start this episode with kind of a bit of a flashback, really, to, just after the Crazy Nights tour. Paul needed a break, so he decided to go on a little solo tour. He started to feel more and more that Kiss songs were his songs, not anyone else's. This is something he felt more and more, particularly during the non-makeup era. To quote Paul,
The albums may have said Kiss, but the things people remember about them were me.
I mean, always the humble, understated guy, as usual. For Paul's solo tour, for Paul's solo tour, he put a little band together. Bob Kulick, Bruce's brother, played guitar. Dennis St. James, whoever that is, played bass. And a guy called Gary Corbett, I think that's his name, Corbett, unless I just can't read my own handwriting, played keyboards. And also sang backup parts, which Paul said was much needed, and he appreciated that. For drummers, Paul was split between 2 names. The first was Greg Bissonette, who played with David Lee Roth. Greg Bissonette, by the way, is a beast. He's a really, really, really good drummer. And he also has a ridiculous speaking voice. If you ever hear him speak, he's got an absolutely ridiculous speaking voice. I think he might have some...
I put my right hand here, my left foot around, and I said, Wangito.
That's how he speaks. I'm not genuinely. Look it up. Anyway, the other guy who did no seriously. Look it up. He's talking. He's on Drumeo and he's talking about samba. And he's like, I remember singing to Wanguito. And anyway, the other guy who auditioned was a guy called Eric Singer. Eric came.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, indeed. Who had played with Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper. Or he might have played with Alice Cooper after this point. I'm not quite sure. But he definitely played with Black Sabbath. Probably during their worst period as well. But that doesn't matter. Eric came to a jam and Paul thought he sounded terrific. So he hired him then and there. Paul said he didn't think Gene cared much for his solo tour. Which actually, in Gene's autobiography, he makes it very clear. He said he went to a show, he watched from the balcony, and he really respected seeing Paul there and made him appreciate him more as a performer, watching him, and not being next to him. So, you don't know who to believe on that. But in any case,
one, Paul.
Yeah, in any case, Eric Carr was not happy about it. He was not happy that Paul was going on this little tour. So, according to Paul, Eric wanted to be in Paul's solo band.
Paul said, "You're the drummer in Kiss. You can't be my backup drummer."
On the tour, they played a show in Brooklyn, and a guy ran on stage to give Paul a hug. All of a sudden, there was a huge ball of hair on the stage. What happened was one of Paul's hair extensions got ripped out and fell to the ground, sort of during the hustle. According to Paul, it looked like
A dead rat on stage.
I mean, who cares? Why is this in his autobiography? I don't like. You're sort of probably wondering why I'm mentioning this. It's because I'm just amazed
Yes.
he felt the need to put that in his book. Who cares? No one cares. I think it's.
Is that the end of the story?
That's it.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say.
No, it goes nowhere.
What?
That's it. That's it. I think, you know what it is? I think it's not just a need to kind of shit on people and criticize people and to always have the last laugh. I think it's also a need to address all the embarrassing things that have happened to him. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And when he does it.
Yeah.
He does it in this very kind of like, it was embarrassing. That's really kind of harsh way. Do you know what I mean?
I think he thinks probably by covering those things and getting the first word in, he's allowing himself to be more candid and honest about all of these people that he shits all over. I think in his mind, it's just, I'm just being honest about everything. It's all out there.
Yeah.
When really the embarrassing stories are more just, boring stories.
Well, that's not that embarrassing.
And then he's just
is it?
saying mean things about other people.
Yeah, innit? I mean, that's not that embarrassing. What, you think it's a way of him looking maybe a bit more humble? A bit more kind of like,
In his mind, I think he thinks, look, I'm saying all these embarrassing I think he thinks that's self-deprecating in a likable way. I'm psychoanalyzing. I have no idea. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think he must have a way in his mind to justify the way that he shits on people all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
in
it
this
is.
biography that you're quoting from.
It is sort of like
And before you come after me, I know, I've had my fair share of palavers.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but my point is he's not actually addressing any real criticisms. It's
Not
like
really, no.
a story about a hair extension falling out.
It's not that interesting.
When was the memoir written, by the way?
Oh,
What
that
period?
is a good question. It was after Sonic Boom came out. I want to say 2010, 2011. No, later than that, actually. Yeah, later than that, actually. It came out in about I want to say 14, maybe.
Face the music.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to gauge
What
like
story?
what was the attitude to, particularly like the 70s and 80s, like in the 2010s. Maybe he would have felt a bit more embarrassed about those sorts of things, or maybe not. I don't know. 2010s, I feel as though like we've gotten over that, or sort of, we didn't look at it as too demeaning. I'd assume that he thinks it's funny, but like you say, the way he seems to tell these stories is kind of like you say, that it was embarrassing. Like he's setting up, like he's trying to contextualize how difficult life was for him with his hair extensions falling out. Maybe we're being too harsh on this one story. Maybe it's just
Maybe
a not very funny anecdote.
Yeah.
More interesting.
Maybe I have to be honest with you though. I guess I need to contextualize this a bit more. My opinion of him after doing research on this has lowered quite significantly. So, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, at one gig, hang on, I need to fucking inhale. I've got a cold. Anyway.
Don't cut that out.
No,
How embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. I had a cold. It was embarrassing. It sounded like a swamp.
Anyway, I will get on to... Anyway, one night at one of the gigs, Eric Carr came to one of the shows and he watched all night with his head resting on the railing of the balcony. Just watching the show. After the show, Eric Carr came backstage, turned to Eric Singer, and said,
Said what?
"You're going to replace me in Kiss."
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Paul responded with,
What are you talking about? He's the drummer in my solo band. You're the drummer in Kiss.
but anyway, you may be thinking, well, Eric's had a pretty good assessment overall from Paul, right? In his book, kind of overall, kind of had a pretty good ride of it compared to Peter and Ace.
Yeah, I'd
right?
say.
That-
Yeah.
And Vinny, particularly.
Just because he's not been mentioned as much.
Well, yeah.
That's a good sign.
Wait. Wrong. That's wrong.
Oh,
It's because
okay.
it's never really had to come up. Do you know what I mean? Like, something will happen and it's not that relevant to the album or whatever. It's been tap. But Paul has said his first share of actually quite mean things about Eric. So, for example, Paul said that when Eric first joined the band, he wore a brand new white suit to dinner, his first. After about 10 minutes, he spilt a huge glass of red wine down it. Do you want to know what Paul said about this? Or can you guess?
I can't think of any Paulisms right now for red on white.
He went like this. He said,
What a schmuck.
like that.
Unnecessary.
It is. Another night, when they were all out for dinner again, Eric really enjoyed the food they ate. The food came out on a sizzling hot plate. Eric enjoyed the food so much that he ordered it again.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
That's what Paul does in his audiobook. I'm not even joking. He puts on like he affects like a British accent and he does that line from Oliver Twist. He goes,
Please, sir, can I have some more?
like that. Eric was so eager that he grabbed the sizzling hot plate with his bare hands and he got very, very badly burnt. Do you want to know what Paul said about that?
What a schmuck.
That's exactly
What a
what he
klutz.
said. He went
Oh,
What a schmuck.
twice. Another night, a guy was hitting on Eric in a bar in Paris. So he went over to Ace to complain about it. Ace suggested that they make out so the guy wouldn't hit on him anymore. So they did. Another night, Eric spent a night with a journalist. She asked to take photos of him naked in the bath, so he did. The members of the band warned him that the pictures were going to end up in print, and they did. Do you want to know what Paul said about that?
Go on.
What a schmuck.
3 times.
well, it's a comedy triple. That third one's getting lots of laughs,
That's the thing. It's the third one that hits the hardest. When there was also a time when Eric was apparently incredibly gassy and was supposed to be going on a date with a woman. But he was so nervous, he got very, very gassy and started to have diarrhea and had to stop every 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. Paul also said that Eric became obsessed with the idea that his hair was falling out. Paul said his hair was
So big that when he moved forward, it went backwards. It was always moving in the opposite direction to the rest of him.
it's worth noting that Gene never really says anything bad about Eric. He's always quite respectful of him and kind of just says he was terrific. He was a great team player. He was very funny. Had a great attitude. Blah 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 blah. But the main thing that Paul says. Sorry, Karen.
No, I was going to say what you said so far about Paul's recollection of Eric. It's not in the context of Paul. It's not too bad. Like some of these give me a feeling of like, well, I need to say something about Eric, and he seems like a nice guy who didn't do anything too crazy. So, the one time he got wine on his white suit. Like,
well, he also. He
go
also
on. Don't tell me there's something really horrible coming up.
Well, he also calls him. There is something really horrible coming up, but before that, like he does call him ungrateful and naive as well. I think, though, the reason why I think this is significant is these are all kind of embarrassing stories, and given what happens later, I think that if it were me, and that was my drummer, considering what had happened, I wouldn't have put them in my autobiography. Because I just don't think that that's fair. You know, given the circumstances of what would end up happening. And I'll go into that a little bit more later. Sorry.
I think you can put those stuff in, but you give it a bit more context. If it is literally, here's something silly he did, what an idiot. Sorry, schmuck. Then, yeah, that's not. But you can speak a bit more about his character and sometimes he did these silly things. However, he was also blah blah blah, blah and say nice things about him. If it is literally that is the only thing we're getting, then yeah, fair enough.
No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
We need to be a little more careful because it does get a bit more real, this story, and. We didn't know any of these people personally. We don't know any of these people personally. And we don't know what sort of relationship they had. And people deal with this stuff in different ways. I don't think the way I'm talking is appropriate for the podcast right now. But what I mean is, like, if I died, I would hope that you guys would tell funny, embarrassing stories about me. Put it that way. Now, maybe, Alexei, I'm being way too kind to Paul there. And actually, you're right, and this is in bad taste. And it sort of reads that way when you give us those quotes. But I do think we have to I just don't think we can draw conclusions.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I think you need to listen to it. I think it's the way that he delivers it. Okay. It's the way that he delivers it. He doesn't really paint it in like, he's just kind of like, what an idiot. What an idiot when, you know, obviously that person isn't here to defend themselves, and I think that's wrong. Personally, I think that's wrong. I don't think it's worth bringing up embarrassing, stupid stories that maybe they wouldn't want. You don't know. Maybe they wouldn't want. It's not really worth it. And also, what terms with what Alex was saying about like, you know, does it lead on to like Eric was, you know, he was a funny guy. He used to do stuff like that. It's not really. He's literally just he contextualized it as he was naive and ungrateful, and I think that comes more into light as the story progresses, but we'll get to that. Anyway, one day, Paul got a phone call from Eric. This is just after the Hot in the Shade tour, so we're going to like move forward a little bit. He told him that he had coughed up some blood. He said the doctor had given him a scan and found a finger-shaped growth going in and out of his heart. It was then discovered that it was cancer. During this time, they were still looking to do a follow-up to Hot in the Shade. According to Gene, they looked to work with Bob Ezrin again because they believed Destroyer was still one of their best albums. However, after The Elder was such a disaster, they were still unsure about whether they should work with him. So they decided to do one song with him instead as a sort of test. Luckily, the producers of the film Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey asked them if they would record a version of God Gave Rock and Roll to You for the soundtrack. They recorded the song with Bob, which, you know, did indeed turn out to be a success. It became a hit in the UK, became a hit over here. And they were really happy with how it turned out. So, however, Eric Carr did not play on the song. He did not play drums, that is. He did sing harmonies during the a cappella bit, but they decided he wasn't well enough to actually play drums on the song. They agreed that for the song, Eric needed to focus on his health, so they went on without him. Instead, they brought in Eric's singer. Apparently, when they did the video for God Gave Rock and Roll to You, Eric Carr begged to be in the video. Like, he absolutely begged to be in the video. Because he had lost all of his hair because of the chemo, he wore a wig. Gene says Eric did not complain one time that he played drums. It was a 12-hour day, and he did take after take after take. And Paul also said that he played like a man possessed and really, really put in like a big shift that day, which is very commendable. They ultimately decided to work with Bob Ezrin and make another album without Eric Carr. Paul and Gene said that there was no intention of making Eric Singer a full-time member, and that once Eric Carr was better, he would be brought back in.
Right.
It's so messy. It's like, it's obviously, it's hard to comment on, but this apparently upset Eric quite a lot, because he was like, oh, this is the most important thing in the world to me, and it's been taken away, or it seems like it's being taken away just by virtue of me being ill. I think the impression I got is that he would rather they just paused and not got on with him. Yeah, it's
which strikes me in contrast to sort of what I feel Gene and Paul's attitude is, which is to always keep grinding, always keep working and keep touring.
It's business.
Yeah.
Well, I saw an interview with a manager that they had, and the manager was really defending their decision to just carry on, because he was like, they had to keep going. They were stuck between a rock. They were going to make an impossible decision, and they did what was best for the brand, and they did what's best for Kiss. And I'm like, surely you've got enough money. Do you know what I mean? Because they were also like, oh, we were sure he'd beat the odds. We were sure he was going to pull through. Yeah, it's very them. It's very them, and it's hard not to contextualize it in what you know about them as being like, that seems like a very cold decision to make. In any case, it's pretty messy. But however, me, if I were to put myself in his shoes, in Eric's shoes, I personally would be devastated. But that is just me. That's just me. I don't want to make any assumptions. Paul said they told Eric Carr they were recording without him. They promised to pay all his medical bills and keep his insurance going, which has been disputed by certain people, by like members of Eric Carr's family. Eric Carr himself said that they didn't, but again, it's very, 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 very disputed, that fact. During the recording sessions, Paul and Gene got the news that Eric Carr had suffered a stroke. Soon after he had passed away. None of Eric's friends or family wanted to talk to Paul and Gene. Both of them flew to New York for Eric's funeral, and both have kind of different accounts of what happened, of what the funeral was like. I'm going to read both of them. So I'm going to read Gene's first. I'm not going to do this in accent, by the way, because I think that would be in very, very poor taste. But I'll tell you Gene's first. So Gene said, Ace showed up. We said hello, but sat in different parts of the church. Fans lined the driveway leading up to the church, and everyone was in tears. The fans had loved Eric, and they weren't the only ones. It devastated everybody. Whether Ace cared for Paul or myself at that point, no one can say. But he always felt very close to Eric. The biggest concern Eric Carr had ever had was that Peter Criss might have hated him for taking his place in the band. He didn't want Peter to think he usurped him on purpose. or he didn't respect what Peter had contributed to the band. When he first met Peter, he said, "I'm so sorry," and it stopped Peter dead in his tracks. Peter speaks fondly of him even today. So, whatever you think of Gene, I think that is respectful, kind retelling of events, and in good taste. I think it touches on how sad it was, but also what a great guy he thought Eric was. I think that's fair to say. I mean, whether it's put on or not, it's in good taste, right? We can say that, right? It's in good taste. Now Paul's. It was an open casket funeral, which was ghastly. The body in the casket, which was holding a pair of drumsticks, didn't look like Eric. It didn't look like a human being. It looked like a mannequin. Eric's girlfriend briefly took the drumsticks out of the casket, and Eric's fingers moved. When she did, the scent of flowers was overwhelming. You could barely breathe. But I could also smell hostility all around us. Everyone bristling at our presence. Peter and Ace were there. Peter, who everyone knew, resented and disliked Eric, tried to tell me that Eric had been calling him day and night, time and time again. Nothing made sense. Turns out Eric had painted us as the bad guys. He said we had booted him out of the band and didn't support him. Everyone thought we had cut Eric off, which simply wasn't true. When we told him we were going to record Revenge without him, he cut himself up from us. I really don't like him. I think he's
What the fuck, man?
I really don't.
What the fuck?
What the fuck is that about? Or you see, this is. Sorry, no, carry on. What are you gonna say? Sorry.
Paul explaining that he didn't cut him out from the band is, one thing, and it could be true in a sense, or we don't know what happened there.
It's
but
not
I'm really kind of disgusted. Yeah, it's not important. I'm disgusted by the details and the tone he gives of the funeral.
Gross.
Really
Do you know
unnecessary.
It's
really.
so gross. It's in such bad taste, right? This is why because all these embarrassing stories as well. I mean, this is your dead drummer. He's not here to defend himself. It's so petty, and for what? I mean, basically, because the way I read it is that he highlighted how cold you had been to him and had upset him, and now he's dead, and you still need to have the last laugh. I just think he deserves better. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like he has to have the last laugh. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of trying to show, or at least Eric is trying to show, was basically making a point of telling people like, oh, I felt that they'd basically cut me off and upset me. And it's almost like now that he's dead, Paul still needs to have the last laugh. It's so low, in my opinion. Anyway, with Eric gone, he becomes the latest Kiss casualty. What do you guys think is Eric's lasting impact and legacy? What are his highs? What are his lows? Danny, we'll start with you. What's your appraisal of his career?
I think he's the best drummer Kiss has had up to this point, and I'm pretty sure going forward, only because
I agree.
They only have so many albums left after this.
Well, there's that, and also
no shade on Eric Singer.
No, but there's also that. But there's also like Eric Singer, obviously, as it will turn out, he's trying to copy a certain style. Does that make sense? Moving forward,
yeah.
So he doesn't get.
Maybe he feels a bit more like a replacement.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's too harsh.
Exactly, but I agree. Best
Mr. Singer, but
best
yeah.
drummer.
Yeah, I think Eric Carr is clearly the best drummer that Kiss had. I think he's really got. I think it's similar to what I've said about a few of the others. He's absolutely earned his place in rock history. He's played fantastically on a really good run of albums. I'm not saying I adore all those albums, but how often were we saying throughout all those criticisms we had, we were always going, oh, by the way, drums are kind of killing it, though. Eric's doing a pretty good job here.
Absolutely. There's been some great, particularly intros. like King of the Mountain, no, no, no. You know, it
Great
depends.
intros.
Great intros, great drum fills.
Yeah. Yeah, a really powerful drummer, and we'll get onto it when we talk about the song later. I think his moment vocally in God Gave Rock and Roll to You is very moving.
I agree.
I think that's a really good send-off, as is the last track on this album. We'll get to that later. I think that's a really sweet send-off. It's hard. It's annoying in a way because this is generally a light-hearted thing that we like to do here, and I think it's more fun for us when the member didn't have such a sad ending as that, because that's really what we're left with. That's why we can't ignore the context there. It is a very sad story, and he must have been horribly young. I don't know how old he was. But he must have been very young.
He was and
so it's no fun to talk about.
He was 42, I think.
See, that's just tragic, and no one deserves that. Like I say, I can't say anything better than he has absolutely earned his place at the table, and he's really made an impact. And I enjoy listening to what he's made. What else can I say? Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of many times where we've like sort of criticized the drumming. He always... I'm not sure why I get this feeling, because I mean, what do we know? But he always struck me as very professional in that, like, the drums he did always served the album he was working on. So go on.
Yeah, no, we have criticised his drumming in the past, but that was just on Music for the Elder. That wasn't really his fault, though.
What did he do? Did he do the whole album?
Yeah, he played on all of it. Oh wait, no, they got a session guy in for Under the Rose for some bizarre reason. He co-wrote Under the Rose actually with Gene, which is enough to cement to cement his place in
Which,
history.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and so I always got this sort of professional feeling from him and Bruce, in the sense that it always seemed as though they were trying to serve whatever the song was at that time. It never felt as though there was a big clash in what was happening, like there sometimes was, I felt, with Peter Criss, in that Peter had his style and the song might have been a different style, it just wasn't quite working. And Eric gave a lot of energy, I think, to the band, just through his drumming, and it probably wasn't his call, but some like the risks they took with like mixing stuff. Like the first time we kind of all spoke about was on Creatures of the Night, which the drums were so noticeable and gave such a different feel to the music. And it wasn't always to our taste, but I think we appreciated it. And then on a more personal thing, when in the original four kind of like split up, we've been talking less and less about like them as characters and how they all fit together as such. And I always liked the sort of visual of Paul, Gene, and Eric, because Eric stood out in a very different way to them. I'm talking about in like music videos and in photos and stuff. They never really explore Eric as sort of being like a character or a persona on stage. Maybe they did do something on the tours, but I don't know. But I always thought he fit nicely in that sense with the band, and it's a real shame we didn't get any more from him in that.
No, I agree with you. I really like his aesthetic. You got sort of like,
He's so cute.
Yeah. You got the little guy behind like the massive kit with like this huge head of hair and stuff like that, and he plays like a beast as well. He's a really, really fucking shit hot drummer. He's a really, really good drummer. That's a cool vibe, and I like that. I think as well, as a replacement for Peter, like he's essentially stepping into the shoes of like a very, very beloved character, even in Kiss, you know what I mean, like, because he was so integral to the look of that band, and he's one of the most like liked replacements in a context like that. No one seems to sort of like, the fans really liked him. Apparently he was really like in tune with them. He used to always see them after gigs and stuff like that. He's a great drummer. I think he's a brilliant drummer. He's definitely the best drummer they've ever had. I agree with Danny. I think he could sort of swing like John Bonham when he needed to, like, I Still Love You particularly is a massive highlight for me, because even like what Alex was saying about Creatures, his drumming on Creatures is good. It's more, I think if there's any criticisms there, it's more how they sound rather than his drumming. Like his fills and I Still Love You are just incredible. But I also think as well that, like, he can also kill those speed metal tracks as well. Like I'm Alive or No No No. His drumming in that is just absolutely ferocious. Like he's a very, very, very talented drummer, and and we'll see that on this album as well. Even on this album, we'll see what a great drummer like he was. Like, he also seemed to have a great personality. Like I said, he had a great, great aesthetic. It's a shame that they didn't let him sing more and let him be more of a personality, like only because I would have rather them gambled and let him have some songs on an album than have the majority of Gene's songs that we've got on an album. I would have rather rolled the dice, not really knowing much about him as a songwriter other than like Little Caesar and a couple of like bits he's written on other tracks like All Hell's Breaking Loose and stuff like that. I would have rather gambled based on those than listen to most of G's songs. So I think one of the really important things is that he helped them, through the 80s. Peter could have not have been their drummer during the 80s. It would have been ridiculous. Like, they needed, like, a Tommy Lee or a Tommy Aldridge or someone like that. Like, without that, without Eric, they just would have completely sunk. Like, it's worth mentioning as well that, even like what Danny said, when he's playing on a bad song, he still sounds good. I think him and Bruce have great chemistry, and in terms of when he's on a song like like a Gene song or something like that, he always still sounds pretty good. I mean, it's sad that that this is how he went out, and also that he actually died on the same day as Freddie Mercury. So his death was quite overshadowed. It wasn't really acknowledged that much, in the music industry, which is, again, kind of a shame. Like, it's sad that, it's sad that he died not feeling supported by his bandmates. And I think that it must have been devastating feeling abandoned by them, if that's genuinely how he felt. But anyway, I think it's sad, and I think he was a really, really good drummer, and I think he carried them through the 80s, and he will be missed. Anyway, back to the album. During the making of Revenge, Gene was in a club watching a band he produced called Easy O. Whilst he was watching them, guess who he bumped into?
Maybe Joni Mitchell.
It was Joni Mitchell, and they co-wrote Unholy together. It was not Joni Mitchell. Guess who? I'll give you some. Guess who slithered up to him? Guess who dripped from the ceiling towards him?
Oh, no, I read this already. I read about the slithering. Yeah.
Vinny.
Who is
Vinny Vincent makes a return. This is what I like. See, this is what I like.
With his forked tongue hanging out.
Yeah. Hello, Gene. This is why I like. This is why I like the Kiss story so much, because it's almost like a soap opera. Like there's characters that kind of come in and out. This would, like, if it were soap opera, this would be kind of his big re-entry. Do you know what I mean? But according to Gene, Vinny wanted to patch things up and wondered if he would consider writing any songs with him. Gene wanted to let bygones be bygones, and Gene told Paul that Vinny had changed. So Paul wrote songs with him as well. However, before the album was released, Vinny was up to his old tricks again. He tried to renegotiate on a contract, and Vinny also attempted to sue them again and lost.
What, while they were performing together or writing together?
They were writing together. So they'd given him a contract that said, like, okay, so you're going to be down for X amount of credits. This is your percentage of the song. This is the royalties you get.
Yeah.
Vinny wouldn't have it. He was up to his old tricks again, trying to
negotiate on the contract.
Which isn't great. And he also tried to take credit for Bruce Kulick's solo on Unholy, which Bruce, of all people, did not take kindly to. Bruce called him a scumbag and a motherfucker. Bruce actually has a YouTube channel, by the way, where he talks about the albums he made with them at quite some length, but they're so boring I can't really use any of them. He just talks about like what heads he used and pedals and stuff like that. It's like, Revenge was a quality album. I used a Mesa Boogie headstock with this BC Rich. Just listen to the guitar solo on Unholy.
I need to listen to
I sent you his video editing skills are amazing. He uses every single preset transition. There's like star wipes and fades and dissolves. It's absolutely brilliant, but pretty unusable.
I mean, who's gonna do reviews of Kiss albums? Am I right? Who's gonna do long, tedious, boring reviews of Kiss albums?
Let's get him on as a guest. Let's get him on as a guest. We'll be talking about a track, and he'll be like, "Well, the funny thing about this song is I actually used a Fender," and would have started turning his mic down as he's talking. The general approach on this album was to make a more back-to-basic, ballsy rock album, which I can't lie, fills me with dread. Because let's be honest, when they try to do that, it fucking sucks. When they try to do that, it's fucking wank.
Rock and Roll Over was.
It's what Rock and Roll Over was. It's what Love Gun was, and it's always shit. It's what Hot in the Shade was. They were like, "Oh, we need to get back to being." It's always bad. It's always bad. So it filled me with dread. Bob was on board with this approach, and to be honest, I think he takes more of a back seat on this one than he does on Destroyer. Would you agree? Do you hear those kind of Bob Ezrin-isms? I hear a few moments. I'm like, that's Bob, but not, not loads. I kind of really. What do you guys think? Can you hear his influence on this?
I hadn't thought about it. I see what you mean. It's not like the other two Bob albums at all in that way.
No, not really.
You're right.
He's not really.
Yeah,
he's kind of just
a couple of little exceptions.
A couple of exceptions here and there. I'm going to point them out when they come, but not really. Well, what do you think, Alex?
There are definitely some melodramatic Bob Ezrin moments.
Yeah.
But they are far enough between where it's not too noticeable.
It's odd. There's also a new image on this album to go with the, I guess, heavier sound. A lot less glam, a bit more menacing. What do you guys think of this? Have you had a look? Have you had a chance to, size them up? Have a little look. Have a look. Look at them.
I mean,
Danny,
my God.
Danny, if you can, they look like Ministry. They look like an industrial metal band. Do you not think? Look at the back. Danny, go on... look up the front cover and try to look up the back. Yeah, look at the back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, innit?
Look at that.
Look at that.
This is Kiss, people.
They're not fucking around.
This is Kiss.
They're not fucking around.
Yeah.
You got the leather trench
Why
coat.
Paul's legs up?
I know.
So far away.
I like his laces are untied.
Fuck it.
But Gene was like,
Paul, tie them, for God's sake, or fall. Fuck it.
and then he fell over immediately afterwards. Went, Sorry, Alex.
Visually, I mean, they're going for it. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, some of them look a bit too kind of old for it, especially that time. And Gene's fully going for it. I don't know if you watch the music videos, but Gene is all in on this this aesthetic. Yeah, Paul not as much. He's still kind of Paul, but he's just wearing a bit more black. But Gene is he's changing like his mannerisms to like fit the style.
Yeah, I think the least convincing is Bruce. You're like, you don't dress like that ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They stuck him in that. What do you think of the goatee? I think the goatee is quite a big point of interest.
I mean, it looks terrible, but
it really
again,
does.
I'm commending him for like really going in on it.
Yeah, he's definitely committing to the bit. Anyway, once the album was recorded, the band hit the road for a tour. They brought Eric Singer on as a full-time member, but had to have a meeting about whether they could have him in the band because his hair was blonde. What the fuck? Sorry, I've lost my place in my notes.
Okay.
Oh, no. It's because I put in brackets, do impression of Paul reacting to Eric's hair.
What will the people think?
going to be something like that. The stage show for the tour was a Statue of Liberty motif. Gene said that the grunge bands had killed rock and roll dead. There was so much bad press for anyone putting on a straight show. By the millions, this is quoting him directly, by the way. By the millions, white kids went over to rap because bands looked like bums. At least rappers were talking about girls and money. A decade later, the grunge bands are dead, and the hair bands are back with successful package tours.
What the hell is he on about?
He's just so wrong.
What's his
He's
example?
often wrong about
Sorry,
things.
I feel like I misunderstood. He means in 2002, hair metal came back.
Basically, no, it didn't. What are you talking about? Or he was saying that like
They were putting together these successful summer package tours. And the
Well, that's
grunge bands-
because people from the 70s and 80s were getting on a bit. You know, they were in their 40s and 50s. And so, yeah, they could afford to do freaking cruises or whatever stuff they were doing. You know, that sort
but
of
that's
stuff.
the thing.
Like,
he's-
yeah, I'm
he's-
sure he was making money. But that's so out of touch for him to say.
It's really out of touch, and also he's not talking about the kind of tours these bands were doing. These bands do things like state fairs and barbecues. They do like these little all-dayers where they're called like, you know, Hairfest or something like that. And it's like the kind of fifth generation lineup of Warrant and Rat and stuff like that. And it's all, to be fair, I'm not gonna lie, they look like a fucking blast. I would go to them. There's like a barbecue. Everyone's really fucking friendly. You sit there. It'd be quite nice, to be honest with you. They kind of look more like there's a really good documentary on YouTube called what's it called? Metal Evolution, I think it's called. And it's just like a little documentary where they go through different genres of metal and stuff like that and talk about how they evolved and stuff. And hair metal is one of them. And the guy who presents it, he goes to one of these sort of all-dayers and he says it's kind of more like a fun fair or a barbecue than it is like a gig. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that he's talking about, basically. Anyway, Revenge was released on the 19th of May, 1992. And it debuted at number 6, but to be honest with you, dropped pretty quickly. However, it's sort of seen as a favourite, a fan favourite. Gene and Paul both, you know, rate this one, I think, pretty highly. And say it's one of their favourites. But what do we think about the cover? Danny, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I hadn't thought about it. Let me look at it again. It's fine, isn't it? It's fine. It's not my thing. I don't care about that. Look at that. It's very sort of boyish stuff they've led into in the past. I'm sure some of their fans like that. I don't know. Are those supposed to be bullet holes? It's a bit.
It's a bullet hole. Yeah, it's like a vault. And there's bullet holes, and so there's the
know what I
blood.
mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get it. I get it.
Try hard comes to mind.
It
but
is.
look,
It is try hard, but it's almost.
It's on brand.
It is try hard, but it's almost also like not trying hard enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's try hard, but it's lazy.
Like I think this is definitely a heavier presentation for sure. I think tied with Gene's solo album, this is probably the heaviest looking so far.
Yeah, I agree with
I think
that.
taking into account the change in look, which is on the back, you know, where they almost look like a fucking like Ministry, like it definitely, you know, promises a heavier sound, which it doesn't really deliver on, bar like one track and some sections of some others. I remember when I was younger, by the way, having this album, and actually I'd say next to Creatures of the Night and Crazy Crazy Nights, probably enjoying this third most. I quite liked this
Wow.
one. Yeah, third most, I remember at the time. And I remember as well being quite excited by it, you know, looking at the front and whatever, because it looked a lot heavier. However, now, if I look at it, despite those vibes, you know, kind of heavier vibes, it's pretty dull. Like, I actually think it looks like a cheap compilation or like a bootleg. It's like remarkably cheap looking in a way that's quite hard to pinpoint. I think it's because it's got like a sort of modern for the time sheen to it. It's kind of like modern for the early 90s. Like that, and also it's trying really hard to be edgy. It's really trying hard to be edgy in a very vague way. Like, it's kind of just like this metal door with bullet holes with revenge spattered with blood on the front. Like, the whole thing, it looks like a Kiss compilation, kind of cheaply manufactured in like the former Soviet Union. It's painfully paint by numbers. Like, it's painfully paint by numbers. This is a heavy album. Like, it's trying way too hard, like Danny said, but also not very hard at the same time. It's like if someone who didn't make rock music decided to make a rock album, and for the cover, like, had a guitar on fire or something like that. It's very on the nose and lazy. Also, the title is rubbish. Revenge. It's just rubbish and lazy. Alex, what do you think?
Well, I can tell you why you're feeling that way, Alexei, and that's because this is clearly made in a boardroom somewhere by execs. Because one thing we didn't say with the aesthetics is this is just another example of how much Kiss are willing to sell out. They're willing to just change everything to be relevant, to be cool.
Exactly.
It is crazy to me how quickly, how quickly they've just completely just shifted their image. It's okay to bands to do that, but like you say, this is 1 year after Nevermind, which is known as being like a huge milestone in that it quickly changed rock forever. Like, it very quickly made everything before seem super outdated. Studios were quickly trying to adjust to this new sort of image and stuff. And like I say, this cover, the aesthetic they go in front and back, even though it doesn't look terrible, it does come across as soulless. I mean, like you're saying,
it's not honest,
this sort of revenge blood splatter on the thing. I mean, revenge from what? It's only been like 4 years since their last album.
No, but I can explain that. It's revenge on all of the critics, those that put us down. It's us back to what we do best. That's kind of the vibe that they were going for.
We're gonna kill them.
We're gonna murder.
I love that has continued to exist. Was it Unmasked that had the cover that did the exact same thing, but in the style of that time, sort of?
Well, it's whatever suits them at the time, isn't it? Really, it's whatever
Yeah, exactly.
It's whatever fits the USP at the time.
Which is why I get annoyed at Gene for having a go and being like, well, those bands, they didn't stick around and all that stuff. When it wasn't as if Gene had like this one, thing that he stuck to and that he knew what, he kind of stuck to his guns and stuff. He was completely willing to change whatever he did.
Yeah. Also, it's
to
worth
suit
mentioning
what was selling at the time.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that after this album, they recorded a grunge album. Like, they made a grunge album, consciously wanted to make a grunge album after this one.
Because that was selling, simply enough.
Yeah, exactly. Are we ready to go track by track on this?
Let's do it.
On this mother. Track 1, Unholy. This is a Gene song. On the surface, right, it's scary when an album starts off with a Gene cut. That's definitely a bad sign. However,
and rare.
it's very rare. Actually, I was trying to think of one, apart from obviously his solo album, and I couldn't really think of one. Maybe I need to go back and have a look, but I couldn't think of any. I'm pretty sure there aren't any. Anyway. However, I think this is pretty sick. This is what I knew before going in. I like this song. I think this song delivers on the cover, and then you look pretty good. I think the bass sounds rich. I think it sounds heavy. I think the guitar tones are fat. I think probably this is their heaviest song. Is it not? Maybe there's another one. I don't know, but I think it's up there. It's one of them.
Whatever.
I think so. Is there a heavier one? Like,
I don't think so.
Maybe. I'm willing to have my mind changed. I'm willing to have my mind changed, but I'm struggling to think of one at the moment. It's definitely up there. It's one of their heaviest. It's also fair to say that of all their attempts to sound raw, I would say genuinely on this record, this is them if they're trying to do that sound, this is them at their best trying to do that sound. I think as if maybe not so much the songwriting, but just the production. This sounds the best out of all of those albums that attempts to sound kind of raw and back to basics. I would also go further and say, in a way, this might also be their best sounding album, but I'll get into that more later. I think the riffs on this song are all great, especially the riff in the chorus. I really like that one. It's got a nice kind of ascending run at the end, makes it sound nice and like evil sounding, and much like War Machine, I think Gene does kind of deliver. You know, like, this is what I wanted his solo album to sound like. I wanted his solo album to sound like this. And, you know, you can tell he's pushing himself. He's emphasizing certain sections to make it sound more dramatic, kind of like what he did on War Machine. I think this is him truly, finally, above all else, maybe in any other song, inhabiting the demon persona the best, which is fucked up because he's not even in makeup. Like, I'd say this, War Machine, and all his cuts of Crazy Crazy Nights, especially Thief in the Night, are probably my favorite songs that he's done. I think this is really good. I really rate it. It's heavy. It's what you want from him. The lyrics are absolute fucking gibberish, but that is absolutely fine. There's a bit where he goes, "I am the incubus, I laid the egg in you," and that just complete fucking nonsense. But you know what? I'll take it. The solo, I think, is one of Bruce's best. I think it's noisy. I think it's chaotic, but also quite melodic. You know, I also think the backing vocals on the unholy bit, the hook, the unholy, I think are good. I think they made a good decision not letting Gene sing the hook. I think that was a wise move. Instead, just leave him to sort of sell the verses, because he doesn't really need to sing. He just has to kind of sound kind of evil sounding.
Right.
But no, this is good. I think this is a good start to the album. I think it's Gene, you know, like, finally sounding like the demon. I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. A pass from me. Let's go over to, I don't know. Alex, what do you think?
I agree with you, man. Like, I was worried. I was worried at first. A Gene opener. But it's heavy. There's kind of like you immediately hear a different sound from what we're hearing from Hot in the Shade. You know, it's kind of like muddy, but not so much in a way like Creature of the Night, where it was like too much. It just this very different raw sound to it. And Gene singing, Gene singing sounds much fuller. Like, he's not like too nasally as sometimes he can be, or like he will like sometimes put on like a deep throaty voice and it's all kind of like cringe. No, I think he's got a nice full sound to his voice, and I agree with what you're saying about the chorus, the unholy part. Unholy. It sounds really good. I bet it's awesome at a live show.
They don't really play
like,
it.
super
it's
simple.
Quite annoying. It's quite annoying.
Really?
Rather, if they're gonna, because they always have to do one demon song, right, in the set. That's like their thing. When we saw them, when me and Daddy saw them, they did "I Love It Loud" as like the demon song, you know, off Creatures, which is disappointing.
Oh no!
I would have much rather than play this. It's because this isn't from the makeup era. Do you know what I mean? It's because it's not from the makeup era. But yeah, Karen, it's worth noting as well. This was the first single they had released with Gene on since they unmasked. This was the very, very first one since they'd started. So it'd been a really long time since. Yeah, and it was the lead single as well. It was the lead single, I think. Could be wrong. I think it came out before. No, it would have come out after Rock and Roll. Sorry, God Give Rock and Roll to you. Sorry. Carry on anyway.
Yeah, so I think it, like, you know, I'm not going to say his singing is like excellent or anything, but it works. Especially in the chorus, like you're saying, like the juxtaposition. The singing in the verses kind of lose their way a bit. Go on.
What do you think of the end? You know, where he goes high? Where he kind of goes...
It sounds good. Have we heard that from before? Because he's gone high, but this one, it has a bit of like a more... I lack a better term, to sort of metal-y, sort of like scream sound, which I quite like, particularly for this song.
That might be why they don't... That might be why they don't do it live very much. I don't think you could do that.
Again, it sounds good, and further kind of states why it's the opening track, because it has that energy. It draws you in, and like with that energy, I don't know, it kind of sets you up nicely for the rest of the album. The breakdown, the sort of kind of breakdown and groove in the middle, isn't nothing special, but it works really well. The drums sound hefty as hell. They sound just like they sound huge. I think that works nicely. And the lyrics you point to, Alexei, they are stupid, but I give props to Gene for singing about something else, and than he normally does. And I think this one's about like the innate evil in people. I think it's about like the evil that exists within society. And you know what? It's just like it never got in the way. I was never like, oh, that's a weird line, or like that's a.
No, there are quite a few weird lines. There is quite a few of those weird lines. I remember even when I was younger, when he goes, "I'm the Lord of the Flies." I'm like, "What? You're a book? Like what?" Does that mean? Even when I was younger, I thought that was ridiculous. I used to find the Incubus line hilarious when I was younger as well. I am the Incubus. I need the Incubus. Like,
I kind of when you look at all the lyrics and the thing, like. It is a bit sort of, you know, GCSE A-level English sort of thing going on, being like writing as the perspective of evil. But again, just for comparing it to what he's written about 90% of all his other tracks, I think it works and it fits the music, which for a lot of his tracks he hasn't been able to do. I've talked about this too much. Danny, what do you think?
I don't think Danny likes it. He's not said a word.
Why not?
You've not said a word. You don't like this.
I'm not feeling whatever shift you guys felt that isn't to do with the mix. I think that's the shift that I'm hearing here. All I was really hearing that was different to any old Gene song. Probably the better end of Gene songs, but nothing like kind of, oh, he's really onto something new here. I think this sounds heavy, way heavier than stuff they've done before, but what I mean is not in the writing. I just mean in the production. It's
yeah, but surely you admit the singing.
If I was listening to a remaster,
the singing and the chorus, like I think it's a similar type of chorus, but this one works as opposed to one's quite a lot, which you know the hook just didn't catch.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the difference there, because I just put this chorus isn't it. I wasn't feeling the chorus. I see what you guys mean about the backing vocals, but. And his feigned accent that he's doing again, that's all I was hearing. I'm afraid I just thought the last thing I put was unenjoyable due to vocals. I can't get past them. And if you can't get past them, all I'm left with is just this real fatigue for this Gene hard rock style. And whatever shift you guys heard in the music or the performance, I don't hear. Well, I think it's great that it sounds better in terms of the production. I liked the guitar solo. And I liked the opening, and that's about it.
I think that because my whole thing with him is that he has said before, he's like, oh, everyone says, Paul writes about girls and I write about evil and stuff like that. I was like, no, you don't. It's the other way round. You never write about evil things ever. Like War Machine and even God of Thunder. He did not write God of Thunder. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Almost Human, but Almost Human is, I think it's about a werewolf. But like doesn't sound like evil, does it? It just, you know,
werewolves are evil.
It sounds almost like yeah, but it doesn't. I mean, like the music doesn't sound evil. Like I'm aware werewolves are evil. Like it's like, I think it's refreshing him actually trying to embrace that demonic character as opposed to talking about, you know, just girls and rapey stuff and money and stuff like that. I think it's really nice to hear him sing about that. I'll give you that. And it's just...
And I think the expectations were very low. I don't know, like when I first saw that Gene was doing the first track, when I first heard it, I was like, oh. But then I was like, oh no. Yeah. Like I think that sort of helped a bit. Sort of my expectations were very low, especially coming off Hot in the Shade. I thought we were going to get a lot more of the same. But like I said, yeah, we've said it.
We've said it.
I was struck by how modern it sounds. And again, I don't know if I was listening to a remaster or something, but 2 albums ago, it sounds ancient. You know, we loved Crazy Nights, but it sounds so old,
but it sounds good for...
And
it serves the songs well, but it's...
In terms of sound quality...
It sounds great.
Yeah. But in terms of sound quality, this is it for me. I'm no longer feeling like I have to consider that like, oh well, it is quite old.
No,
I just think it's
agree.
amazing how quickly the both the techniques and the technology progressed in the early 90s and late 80s.
No, I agree, man. I think this has aged, like just sonically, quite well. Do you know what I mean? I was surprised at how well it holds up. Right, the next track, Take It Off. This is a Paul one. Danny, what do you think?
Well, I'm curious what you guys think, because to me, everything you guys, the energy you guys had for the last track, I have for this one. I think it's very AC/DC, especially the opening riff. Well, actually, just throughout it, it's just very classic rock.
What about the lyrics?
I think
What about
I did
the
not pay attention.
lyrics?
Why am I
You're
didn't
going
know
to
what he
bring
said.
up the
Is
lyrics?
it so bad? I don't know what he said. Wait, did
I
write
want to
anything about
see
the
your
lyrics?
booty shaking.
That's what he says.
Are they that bad? Are the lyrics that
They're
bad?
really
Before I
fucking
continue?
weird. He talks about sex in like the strangest, like a fucking weirdo. He talks about sex and
I want to see your hair shaking and your bitten.
They're not that
I'll
bad,
take
Danny.
that
They're
over
just
The way Gene sings
they're
about
just
sex.
kind of
bizarre.
yeah.
It's like he just wants to watch girls like move around. Sorry, carry on.
Well, no, the negative I put was, and this isn't what I was how I felt, but I was thinking like we've had Nevermind at this point. Is this the right sound? For it?
That's so
Commercially
funny.
speaking.
Yeah, you're right.
I was very.
Like, are you sure you want to be? Are you sure you want to be doing this in 1992?
Yeah. I love Kulik's like lead licks just coming in and out, especially in the second chorus.
Daddy, these lyrics are fucking insane. Right? How can I just read some?
Go on.
Well, my mind is getting dirty. Yeah, around 11:30. I want to watch some asses shaking to the noise the boys are making. So I hop into my car to the local titty bar. Because that's my kind of situation when I need some perspiration. Oh dear.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that. That sounds-
Let's have a good time.
Yeah.
You can see him in his car.
I loved the I put the emotional breakdown. It was really funny.
That's
I
hilarious.
don't know what else to call it.
Hilarious, that bit. That bit is
So
fucking
funny.
hilarious. That is like Bob Ezrin just taking the fucking wheel. And
Yes.
just going, I'm just going to come make a completely different song for a bit.
I thought with this song they're out 70s-ing themselves. Like, where was this energy in the 70s?
Yeah.
Where was this songwriting in the 70s?
would have been fine back then.
They should have done this 20 years ago.
Innit?
Pushing. It had me bopping by the last chorus. I think it was so nice to be just hearing Paul belting some really good lyrics, I will add. And I just think this is the sort of song that Kiss. This is the sort of song I think Kiss should write. I think it's fun. I think it's one of the best on the album, maybe. I didn't think about that, but maybe one of my favorites. Alex.
On first listen, I was not liking this at all. Like this one just stuck out so much, especially coming off the last track. I was just like, oh, this is why you came second, Paul, this time. Like, is this your first offering? Because, like you're saying, Danny, it sounds like a completely different time, and the energy it's bringing, especially coming off Unholy, we're just like, what? Like, we're still doing this?
In it, that's
It's
exactly
so-
what I felt. Yeah.
It's so childish, and as Paul gets older and older, and he reverts back to this really teenage sort of like persona. I just think it's so funny. And on this track, he goes for like the like sort of like little ad libs so often. And on first listen, it was so grating, and I was just like, I was just so not into it.
Yeah, I don't like the voice he does.
Yeah, the voice is too much, and we're getting cowbell, which like they haven't done
Yeah, lots of cowbell.
in
good-
so
good to see
long.
that back.
And like you were saying, Danny, it just sends me back right to like the 70s stuff. It really bizarre choice. But I will say on repeat listens, I think this track sort of grows as it goes on, particularly when it does the what do you guys call it, like the soulful part, the sort of. I wrote kind of like soft rock Aerosmith, but that's not kind of right. I'm not sure why I wrote that.
The Bob Ezrin
yeah.
bit.
I quite like that, and then that sort of helps with the final chorus. I'm not sure what it is about it, but like that helps like rev up the final chorus, and like you said, Danny, by the end I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of works. I do think this is a strange step for them. It sounds okay, and this is where I start to notice the guitar work was different, and I start to look up who was on guitar, and Vinny. I think the guitar solo was pretty awesome on this one, and how clean the guitars are in this song in general. So I think for Paul, this is for lyrically and singing wise, this is a step back, but for everybody else, this is, I think, decent. It sounds like you're not into it, Alexei.
Well, okay, so like when they did Destroyer, Bob Ezrin said he didn't want them to write any what he described as suck me, fuck me songs, basically. He obviously doesn't give a fuck about that on this album, because this isn't the only time. First of all, that's not the only time that they revert back to that as well. And I really think that should have been quality. I really think that should have been quality checked. And, again, this came on, and just like that, this is no longer that heavy album that you thought it might have been and was going to be. Like, he's putting on a really dumb voice on this one. Like, he's really, really pushing his voice, and it doesn't sound good. He's going, I'm getting down to 11:30. He's doing this kind of like nasally, kind of weaselly thing, and it doesn't sound good at all. Like, I laughed when, I think it's like towards the second verse, when he goes, like that, because it's so loud. It's ridiculously loud. This is.
I cannot believe you're saying so many good things about June's vocals and this about Paul's vocals.
I prefer. I'm not being funny. I prefer June's vocals on Unholy than I do his vocals on this. I think he sounds really fucking annoying on this song.
What is going on?
This song is not my fucking vibe at all. It's like the instrumental is like
absolutely my vibe.
The instrumental is one of like 5 times on this album where I was just like, this just sounds like AC/DC. This sounds like AC/DC. Yeah. Like, and again, I think the way Paul talks about sex on this is kind of like the way like a kid talks about cars when they're younger. Like, it's kind of general, kind of blind enthusiasm. Like, I don't. Again, it sounds big. The production is good, and it has aged quite well. It's just, it just sounds to me like an average song off Hot in the Shade. It's kind of mid-tempo, boring rock shit. But when we get the middle A, I'm just like, there's Bob Ezrin. Bob Ezrin's sort of just like over-the-top, opulent art rock thing that he does. Like, it doesn't really fit. Like, it sounds fine, but it doesn't really fit. It's not really the vibe. I think on Destroyer, he melded those two sounds pretty well. But on this album, when he tries to kind of blend them together, it's sort of just like he like takes the steering wheel for a couple of bars and just fucks around with it. It's not my thing. And I don't know. I don't like it. Anyway, the next track, Tough Love. I can hear those sort of grunge influences trickling in on this one. On the bridge, it's a lot more brooding. Danny, maybe you could explain it better, but Paul does that weird kind of Egyptian sounding vocal melody thing that like grunge and post-grunge bands do. He's like, that thing. Right? Whatever you call that.
Oh,
you know what I mean. What do you call that? Loads of bands
I
in
don't
the
know.
90s.
It'll be a scale. It'll
Eastern
be
sounding
I don't know if it's
thing.
harmonic minor or something.
Yeah.
I'd have to listen again. I don't know.
That,
I know that sound you mean though. Yeah.
Punch post.
Lots of Yeah.
Snake charmer kind of melody thing. There. Anyway, But the chorus, like this is angsty Paul, and we get 2 tracks with angsty Paul on, and we're like, oh, we hadn't seen that. We hadn't seen that, Paul. It's like, I'm gonna take you down. You know, it's not. It's a different vibe. Angsty Paul. The chorus isn't really happening though, particularly the "Give me tough love." It's so 80s.
Yeah.
Like it's 1980. It's 1992. Like we've got to get going. Like it's kind of annoying. It's sort of just stuck in there, and you know, it sort of gets in the way a little bit. It's not shit. I've heard a lot worse from then. The guitar work is pretty fantastic, actually. On this album in general, I think the guitar work's pretty sick. You know, I think Bruce is a lot noisier, a lot dirtier. It's nice to hear him kind of occupy that space a little bit. You know, it's not much from me on this. It's okay, I guess. The chorus does let it down. It never really pays off. And again, that sort of gang vocal thing. It's like, it's 1982. You know, it's amazing how... I guess that's something I didn't really think about with this album, is that they're kind of taking from different points previously in their career and kind of like throwing them in, you know, like the 80s gang vocal thing,
true.
the 70s, and then also trying to put some like current stuff in it. And I don't think it always sort of works, because again, you've got that grunge influence on this one. You've got the more kind of like heavy, almost groove metal-y thing, kind of on Unholy and stuff like that. Anyway, Danny, what are you saying?
I wrote very little on this one.
Yeah, it's nothing really to mention, is it?
I agree with you talking about the grunge stuff, Alexei, but I actually put Guns N' Roses inspired, and not the first time on this album.
Oh, you mean the riff? You mean the riff?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, the riff especially.
Oh,
The
yeah.
riff is quite...
That's proper Guns N' Roses, yeah.
Quite... I don't remember which... It maybe Mr. Brownstone-y or something. You know, that kind of... Quite fast load, busy. Not too heavy, though. I don't know. I'd have to listen again. It does sound more modern. You know, it's more minory. Like you said, Alexei, it's got that whatever scale it is that they do, those bands. It really could have done with a better hook, this one. The only other thing I thought was Bruce's solo was great, but I wonder if either they told him to chill out with the shredding because of the era, or just Tom Morello changed everything and all guitarists were trying to be very inverted commas experimental, because his solo is very like...
I think that might be more the Black Album, because it's got loads of kind of like high gainy wah stuff on it. Let me have a look.
Well,
I
read something about Bruce's guitar work on this one. If you want, I was going to bring it up at some point, but I'll say it now. Apparently, Bob, I think it was Bob Ezrin, he said to Bruce that like he didn't want to pre-plan his solos so much, or pre-plan his guitar work, and he wanted to sort of like do things on the fly a bit more on this album, and sort of
I sort of hear that.
Yeah, he said if you listen, you won't hear any sort of two-tapping tricks on Revenge. I just found a suitably nasty tone for each solo, and then went straight for the throat. That's from Bruce. Yeah, apparently he was challenged by Bob
right.
to sort of change up his
especially on
style.
tracks like this. Yeah, and it works. I mean, really, that's the good stuff I have to say about this song, is the guitar work as usual. Same old stuff. It needs a hook, so I'm with you on this one, Alex. Maybe even a bit less, actually. I'm not particularly into it at all.
Can I?
Alex?
I just looked it up, by the way. Rage Against the Machine's debut came out in November of this year. Which came out after this album.
Oh, well, there you
There
go.
you go.
Oh, I'm wrong then. Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
Tom
Maybe
Morello
Morello was a bit
ripped off
inspired
Bruce
by
Kulick.
Bruce.
Exactly. How you consider that? He is a big Kiss fan. He inducted them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just saying. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, you guys already really said it. Like, there's a bit of a different style here. There's kind of like that low sort of chugging bass and guitars together, that like sort of sound, which it's a bit different from the drums. Still sound very 80s, but that's not a negative thing. Like, they still haven't quite moved on. But yeah, the chorus doesn't quite work, and I don't know. It's from the singing. It's what we've heard before. I think Paul sounds good on this one. We were having a go at him on the last track, but I think he he sounds
Do you
really,
feel?
really good
Do
here.
you feel the dark?
And the middle of this song, it just lacks energy. I think I'm surprised this track is third, considering how they usually like to list the songs. Like this one, not much going for it. Yeah, and do I feel a darker vibe? No, no.
No, I mean from the vocals, angsty Paul.
Yeah, a little bit of angst, but we always get a sprinkle of that.
True.
Yeah.
Are we good? Can we move on?
We good.
Yeah.
Spit. Right. This song is so dumb. It's unbelievable how fucking stupid this song is. Might be up there with one of their most ridiculous songs. Like, the plod makes a slight return on this one, but I've heard much worse plod. And it's only really kind of ploddy at the beginning. It's only that ploddy at the beginning. This sounds like when people on YouTube do like melodies of famous songs on guitar, it's just like 70s rock riff after 70s rock riff, and they're fucking everywhere. It's just like 70s rock riff after 70s rock riff with Paul and Gene just like singing random stuff over the top, just saying like random sayings. And then Bruce starts playing Star Spangled Banner in between like loads of dive bombs before going into, actually, to be honest with you, quite a sweet fucking solo. It's just Zeppelin.
Yeah, it's a nice... After that...
Yeah, it's just Zeppelin. It's just loads of Zeppelin coming at you from like all directions. It's just constantly spaffing Led Zeppelin into your fucking face over and over and over again. It's just fat, frothing loads of Led Zeppelin being shot in your face. Like it's only 3.5 minutes as well. It's not a long song, but it feels like it's got like enough parts for like a whole album. Like I need a whole lot of woman. It don't mean spit to me. Whatever that bit is, most definitely. Rad after rad after rad, and it's just going round and round and round. Having said that though, I weirdly like it because it's so gargantuanly stupid. Like I kind of give it a pass because I respect how unapologetically stupid it is. But I won't die on that hill. Alex, what did you make of this?
Yeah, this one threw me for a loop the first time I heard it, man. Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, this was so all over the place. And I can say, like you're saying, Alexei, that at least they're trying stuff. They're it's an interesting listen, should we say that?
There's so many parts.
The singing here is so dry.
Parts.
It's so in your ear. The singing is so dry and is so in your ear, and it just freaking takes a hold of you, and not always in a good way. And then it's just a scattered approach, which we've never heard from them before. They were always they always found the one riff and found the one hook, and then just repeated it again and again and again and again. Yeah. Like how many albums I listened to where it was just like they had the one thing going and they would play it for 4.5 minutes. Especially from Gene. So
this is like 5 different hooks
so
in it. This is like 5 different things. I'm like, wait, is that the chorus hook? Is that the part? Is that the chorus hook? The red after red, I need a whole lot of woman. It don't mean spit to me, yeah.
Yeah, and like
Most definitely.
and if you take one part, it's not good. It's not good. But they throw enough at you where by the end of it, like, yeah, you're just like, all right,
surrounds
cool, sure.
It surrounds you and just beats you into submission. It's just like,
yeah, it just through confusion. It's just like you just, you sort of let it be. But let's. I mean, we had a go at Paul for awful lyrics. This also has its unbelievable fair share. I mean, the fact
these are the worst lyrics.
The bigger the cushion, the better the pushing, is like such a cartoonish line from them. Like that's really something that a 15-year-old would write and think is cool. So the fact that they're in their 40s at this point, and I think they'll throw that on. Honestly, a hard track to talk about. The solo's really good. Does it rock? I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like when they try to do weird stuff.
Star-Spangled Banner bit, after the Star-Spangled Banner bit, when he goes back into the double time thing, he's fucking ripping, man.
Yeah. But it's just so all over the place that I'm not ready to like give it the thumbs up in terms of like, oh yeah, well it shreds, it rocks. But I like that they're trying something weird for them. Danny?
I agree with you guys that it's a hard one to talk about. It started, and I really thought, oh no,
it's mental,
because just Gene's. I thought it was going to be just a Gene song, and he's going to be doing this thing that he's doing. I think some of the characters and the vibe that he goes for throughout this album are really low for him.
There's
think
one. There's one coming up
on this album. There's one coming up very soon. Oh God, we'll get to that. But I don't know. Like people overuse the word authenticity. I think when it comes to criticism, but I think when you hear Gene, and you understand why they do. He's just so desperately trying to be someone that he's not. Anyway, that's more throughout this album thing. It happens at the start of this track, but then we suddenly get Paul. And that's like, whoa, that's great. And then it just, like you said, Alexei, it just goes to so many places. I like them sharing vocals on songs usually. The obvious problem is that you get, like, half of that is Gene, though. Like, I like it in principle, but it still means I have to listen to a lot of Gene. I agree with everything about the solo. Really rocking. Some classic-y stuff, also some more shreddy stuff towards the outro. I heard some Slash inspired stuff, I thought. Again, that comes up more throughout this album. I actually concluded that this song is very mid, but in a different way to their other songs, right? It's not like just kind of boringly mid. It's just that it's got lots of goodness to it, but also got some really bad shit that Gene brings to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite a mid song overall. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite hard to assess as well, because when those bad bits come at you, they just come and go like that. They're all done in a very, very short space of time. You're like, wait, what? And then you're moving on to the next thing. Because when it's hit you with, the bigger the cushion, the sweeter the pushing, you're like, what? And then it hits you with, I need a whole lot of woman.
It's crazy that this is a 3.5 minute song.
It's mad how much
like,
they cram in.
This is the song they chose to make short. Yeah.
I will say that the Star-Spangled Banner comes across as a bit, I don't know, random, and like it was so. It's culturally important and meaningful when Hendrix played it.
Exactly.
And here it just is like, so why did you? What's the why? But he does bring a background with the rest of the stuff.
I think as well. I think as well with Kiss, the Star-Spangled Banner has a different context because they're so like. They're just because they're such capitalists, and they're so business orientated that it has a for me, if when they do the Star-Spangled Banner, it has a different kind of context, personally. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. God gave rock and roll to you too. It's important to mention, this is a cover. They covered it off Argent. Before we get into it, have you guys listened to the original? I actually listened to it this morning. What have you guys listened to the original? Quick whistle stop. What do you think of the original? Do you think it's better than this? Danny, we'll start with you.
I've only heard the original on the Ogre Whistle Test DVD that I used to have. I've not heard the studio version. I think I prefer the ukulele orchestra's version overall.
Sound.
To
Cool.
the other two.
Freaking
Right.
All right.
I might. I might give Kiss the edge, but only because I heard it first. It's the one I know.
Yeah, I give Kiss the edge.
Argent wrote it.
They did write it, but then Kiss rewrote the lyrics. Bar the chorus.
I think I give it to Kiss, but like Danny's saying, I heard that one first, and it does have some, well, whether we'll talk about later, some like the sort of nostalgic connections for me. But the Argent version, I think, is really cool. The way they play it, like I saw the Ogre Whistle Test version of it. Like there's like this really laid back feel to it, and the way the lead singer carries it is totally different. And with the organ, I think it's quite close actually, song for song.
I need to listen again.
No, I was very surprised how much I enjoyed the original. Yeah, Alexei, how about you?
Yeah, I prefer Kiss's version, but I will say that the original studio recording, the breakdown, where in Kiss's version it's like the kind of a cappella part, the one on the original is better than the Kiss version. The one on the original is beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. It's really kind of small and naive sounding and pretty. Like that bit really is great. Other than that, it's a different vibe though. The original's more like all the young dudes. It's not like the kind of like, you know, raise your freak flag and like let's, you know, well, I guess that is what all the young dudes have. It's got a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's good. But that little really, really sweet, really honest breakdown is really, really, really beautiful. However, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about their version. Let's start with Danny. Danny, what do you make of this?
Oh, it's fine. That's what I think about this one. It's fine. One of the things I wrote is just, if you want to be a thing, I'm blank. That's really... That reminds me of... Again, we spoke about on Crazy Nights how us three have memories with that music.
Yeah.
And this has, to a lesser extent, a bit of that.
Yeah.
A bit of that.
Yeah.
This must be the last track we're going to have that was on that greatest hits that I know Kiss.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah.
So, yeah. So I was familiar with this one.
Wait, but Danny, where I'm mainly
Yes.
familiar with it from is the Rock School TV show. Like, I remember this song played all the time, and this was a song that they performed on it. Like, do you not? Because for me, watching that as a young kid was quite, I want to say informative, but I remember being like, whoa, sort of like, that was my image of Kiss as a child. Do you not have any connections with that? Or is it mainly through the greatest hits?
A bit, but not as much as you got. Because I only watched that, like, at our old drummer's house.
Oh, okay.
I never actually watched it myself. So I do have that connection, yeah, because I remember they played that a lot.
Yeah.
That song. Yeah. But anyway, I think I do like the a cappella bit. I think it's cute. I think Paul's voice is adorable.
Yeah.
And
Eric's
then,
great as well.
only just while we were doing this, reading the story about Eric, that's presumably his last contribution to the band. And his part is beautiful on top of it. He does the accompanying harmony part. And it's moving, and it's great. And it's so nice that we have that. Yeah. And it works really well. The two of them sound great together, whatever history was going on between them. I do think the sentiment of the song suits the band. This is the sort of song Kiss should be making. The drums are good. And I was laughing at the spoken word bit.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I know life could be yeah. So this one gets a thumbs up from it. I don't think it would make it too high on my top Kiss tracks, but well, it'll have a good shot. It's kind of up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a low end.
I remember when you and
Kiss,
me
I'd
went
say.
to go see them live. This was one that because it was a very long time ago now. It was in 2009, so it was a long time ago. Something like that. This is one that when they played it live, that I remember the most, I think. Because it was just, because it was just like massive. They had like the confetti and the cannons and shit like that. In that half-empty, poorly attended arena show. Anyway. It really was. It really was.
Go on, Alexei. What do you think of this?
Not many people there. What do I think? I think this is a classic. I think this, this along with Crazy Nights, I think are Kiss's most iconic songs in my view. Probably because they were both big hits in the
People our age,
but also they were both big hits in the UK. Rock and Roll All Night, for example, wasn't.
Yeah. That's
Shout It Out Loud wasn't. These two are almost like anomalies in their discography where they're, for me, if you say Kiss, I'm like, oh, their two biggest hits are Crazy Crazy Nights and this, God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Do you know what I mean? So to me,
I agree
these
with
are
that. Those are the two I knew.
These are two iconic songs, in my opinion. I mean, man, that chorus, that's how you write a fucking chorus, I think. I mean, never mind when it changes key. I think if you're going to do a key change, that's how you do it. They do it very, very, very well with the drum fill. And then, I gotta tell you, like, it sounds brilliant. Bruce does a bit of Ace aping in the solo. You know, the twin guitar thing. That's very Destroyer era Ace things to do. Still sounds great, though. Still sounds great. And also, when they're writing a song like this, I think it's quite good to call back to an earlier sound, because this was the kind of stuff they were trying to make back then, you know, on Destroyer and stuff like that. The a cappella bit with just the guitar, which I guess doesn't make it a cappella, but I guess the main focus is the a cappella, is, I think sounds beautiful. And it's quite poignant, again, hearing Eric Carr on that. I think a lot of people say it's sad that on Hot in the Shade, he wasn't given his due because he got replaced by a drum machine on some of the tracks. But I think, no matter what Bad Blood's going, he gets a fair tribute on this. I think he sounds great on this, and there's obviously another moment coming up where he also sounds great. There's a lovely innocence to that part. It's the same with the Argent one. I think it's pulled off better in the Argent one, but it's still present here. There's just a lovely innocence to that part that I really, really like. It's wonderful. Like, the sentiment God gave rock and roll to you is dumb. Like, it's a dumb sentiment, but it's done, you know, with this, like, be yourself, love life, love music, and raise your sort of freak flag higher energy. That, you know, I think makes you want to lift your fucking lighters in the air. There's a naivety to it, I think. You know, in the same way that School's Out's got a naivety to it, or You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet by Bachman Turner Overdrive. You know, it sort of inspires kind of, I don't know, we need confidence. Like, I do think it's one of Kiss's strengths as a band. I agree with Danny a lot when he was like, this is kind of what they should be writing about. I think this is where they sort of thrive. Mm-hmm. I think that, and I think it's that aspect of the band that appeals to their fan base a lot. It's not the songs about sex, in my opinion, and it's not the songs about leering at women. I think, for the most part, it's the anthems that I think really is appealing to their fans. I think it's the Shout It Out Louds, the Crazy Nights, the Rock and Roll Nights, that kind of thing. I think it's a contender for one of their best songs, but I think it's obviously, you know, it's going to be, really, because I think with me as well, there is a connection to it. There's a history with it and stuff like that, which, you know, can't be overlooked. And I think maybe with perspective, I still think it sounds pretty great. It's really, really good. It's what they do well. They do this kind of shit very, very well, and they're on their A game. Alex, what do you think, though?
Yeah, that last part you said, I completely agree with that, where it is hard. Like, this one does have some nostalgic connections for me, and like I say, it was big in the UK, and one that I've just simply heard more. But I would, even coming back and listening to all these now, I still think this sounds really good and is one of their best songs. They took a really good song with a really good chorus and like good melodies, and they threw every cliche onto it and made it sound huge, which they can do well. I mean, it is full of all the cliches, and on top of that, it's something which, you know, like with this kind of stuff, they believe it. They believe in this kind of crap, and it is so weird to hear in 2024, like, seeing rock in this way, because like rock and roll, that idea is so like disconnected to how people feel and how people look at things in exactly. You know, at least in pop culture, that the idea of like a rock song being like the people's music sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's so far removed.
It just, it sounds so shade, but it was. I really enjoy listening to this one. I think it's really good, and on top of that, it's just so cheesy. And then Danny mentioned it briefly, but Paul's bit at the end, that road's name. Oh, just the way he sings rock and roll at the road is so over the top, and I'm glad he did it. My God, and the music video is really sweet. Obviously, what we said about seeing Eric in there, really cool. But also, they throw to a lot of clips of
film.
Kiss as a band on stage throughout their touring span, and they put in clips of Peter Criss, Ace Frehley. I think there's Vinny in there as well. They didn't have to do that. They really didn't have to do that, but they do show a light to them. Really nice touch.
Oh, that's lovely. This is kind of like their flagship achievement on this album, isn't it? This is the one people remember. Are we good?
Yeah.
Can we move on?
Do we have to?
Yes.
I mean, we can skip the next one. We can skip the next one if
yeah.
you want. Domino by Gene. Let's throw it over to Alex because you went last time. Why don't you talk us through this one? Do you love it?
Yeah, just we've had very scattered songwriting from them, and then here we get this again scatter approach from Gene with his voice. Like he's just throwing a different sort of style on every single one, and this one just really falls flat. He's trying to do this really cool ZZ Top sort of thing, and he can't do it. He doesn't have the charisma for this. We said this in previous albums, but he just does not have the charisma, the sort of charm to pull off songs like this. It's very, very difficult. The riff and the drums are kind of playful, but there's not much to like that song. And then on top of that, just a very unnecessary sort of pedophilic line. It's a sticky situation if she ain't old enough to vote. So pointless, and it's immediately just go, well, Gene, why are we still doing this?
It was
bad before. Yeah, it was bad before. You're much older now, so it makes it even worse.
Even fucking worse. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is a bad one. This is a definite skip. Alexei, do you want to go on next?
Yeah, I don't like this vibe, Gene, at all. I mean, music-wise, it's straight up. It's AC/DC. Just straight up again. It's just AC/DC. Like, I really don't like this. I don't like that she calls you sugar daddy. I don't like that she's got you by the balls. I don't like that she's not the Virgin Mary. I don't like that she's not old enough to vote. I appreciate you acknowledging that it's a bad habit, but I don't like it when you said it feels so good. I don't like that you said that when that bitch bends over, I forget my name. This was released as a single. This was a single. Yeah. It has this was a single off this record. They performed it at their MTV Unplugged. This is awful, and I think it should go in the bin. There are hits with questionable lyrics, right? Like the Beatles, Winger. Like there's the bands that have made hits that have got questionable lyrics about girls underage. But I mean, if you're going to give them any credit whatsoever, they've got a chorus, they've got a hook. You know what I mean? This has nothing. It's got nothing. It's got no hook. And this is maybe the 6th song that they've written about underage girls. Maybe more. I'm not quite sure. But it's 1992. It's not the 70s when people, for some fucking bizarre reason, thought it was just kind of a bit risque and cheeky to talk about underage girls. This isn't okay. Not for this decade. It's really, really bad. It's a really, really shitty song. Also, it's really important, maybe almost above all else, to point out how awful his vocal delivery is. How terrible. I think of all the Gene voices we've had so far, and he tries different voices. He tries out different vibes. This is one where I think he just kind of binned after this song. He does not play it well. He does not play it cool. The lyrics are shit. I think when he goes, I got a man-sized predicament, it's a big one, it's just bad. Because if it's man-sized, you sort of know it's big. You don't have to say that it's big. It's not cool. I don't like it. Danny, what do you think?
It should go in the bin.
Yeah, I agree.
It should definitely go in the bin.
It's really bad.
Who is rocking out to this?
What kind of guy? What kind of guy?
Right? Yeah. You guys have quoted all the lyrics that I wrote down already. It's really, really bad. It should go in the. Should we put it in the bin?
I want
Alex?
to go.
Would you
I
agree
want
with
to put it in the bin.
Yeah, we can put it in the bin.
Yeah.
It's been a while. We can put some.
We haven't had.
It's been a
We have
while
not had
since we put
anything in the
anything
bin
in the
for ages. For a long, long time.
Yeah.
Like over a decade
Over a decade.
of Kiss albums. Nothing in the
Since
bin.
probably the last
Go
time
in.
they were talking about an underage girl, which was probably like an album ago. Right. It's going in the bin. In it goes. Right.
Okay.
Heart of Chrome. Paul. Alex. Mate. Oh, actually, Danny, you went last time. Like you went. You take this one. What do you think of Heart of Chrome?
It's another Guns N' Roses riff, which honestly is welcome. I quite like them doing these styles of riffs. I live for these vocals on these albums. We've said that 100 times. It's always nice to have Paul. I'm feeling this song a bit more than some of the others that have come before on this album. I'm not loving it. I really like there's this really short solo, which I think is really good. Great guitar work. I was even feeling the chorus by the end of the first listen. It's sort of similarly to the other Paul track I like. The sort of by the end of the song, I'm liking the chorus. It's more like it's like if they could just reach this standard consistently,
Wouldn't be that bad, would it?
they would be a great band. It doesn't like this is not mind blowing, but if this was like their lowest type of song, I think that'd be great. It's the fact that this has to be such a victory, and it's really not that much, but it's just like, oh, this is competent enough. It's not blowing my mind, but it's competent. That's what this song made me feel. It's like I just wish they could do. I wish their deep cuts were consistently this good, and it's not even that much. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't love this one, but it like it is tight, and they've come a long way in that sense. And the chorus is pretty good. I like the back and like the kind of like call and response back and forth thing in the chorus between Paul and the backing singers. Yeah, it's cool, and the little break in the middle is a nice touch to smell, a lot more drive. I don't have that much to say on it because we have heard this quite a lot from Paul, and compared to those, it doesn't stand out so much. Yeah, I think this one's just okay. And I also think it's very funny. The line about do you pick up the line about selling to the BBC?
Yeah, that's it.
Which I think is a really funny one because at this time Kiss weren't exactly like really relevant and being like, oh,
really,
the BBC are out to find out about me, you know, like. Yeah,
They'll
it's a very, very strange choice of
probably trying
corporation.
to appeal to their new British fans because of the hit God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Maybe. But imagine the BBC freaking like, you know, oh, we've got to investigate Paul Stanley. You know, we got to find out about his love life. Like it's just a complete like wrong news station to choose from. Yeah, this one's just okay. This joke okay, and yeah, I don't have much more to say. I think the chorus is really just fine. And like you said, Danny, with a lot of these, by the end of it, you're sort of getting an ear for it and you're going, oh, it's okay. Like it's kind of like grooving. But I think we've got to do better, honestly. I think we got to with this new raw 90s sound. You know, it's a bit tiresome. it's a bit done. Alexei?
Yeah, more angsty Paul again. I'm not sure I make of this kind of angsty Paul when he says he's got an angry.
He does sound
soul.
bitter, doesn't he?
When he says he's got an angry soul, I did laugh a little bit.
Like a good angry soul.
It's like you're a deeply sensitive man. I think this is okay. The chorus swings a bit. The middle 8 goes quite hard.
Yeah.
Again, another nasty solo. Bruce smashing the wah. Very nice. It's just so angsty, you know? Like, Paul, the gloves are off. That's the vibe I get. You can feel the rage in him burning. And, yeah. That's all I have to say about this one. Didn't really,
Yeah, but you're saying that, Alexei,
didn't
like
really mean anything
there's all
to
this
me.
fire coming from him, but it's not exactly like a
sort
fiery
of.
track, is it?
Not really.
It's, you know.
Not really. I'm being quite sarcastic. I don't. He's just like it's like starting to come across like really angry, and it's not really that fiery. Alex make a good point. It's quite underwhelming. He's like, "You took my soda to the BBC." You know.
Yeah, a Heart of Chrome as well. It's not like, ooh, you got me there. Like, it's a very like, oh, okay, yeah. It's not a damning sort of.
Well, I don't know. I guess it means that
He's got a cold heart, I guess.
You're not human.
That's what it means.
Okay.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Thou shalt not. This sounds like a Jack Black song. This absolutely sounds like a Jack Black song. And I figured it out. I figured out how Gene writes choruses, right? Are you ready? He takes a famous phrase like trial by fire, hell or high water, fits like a glove, and just yells it at you. Do you know what I mean? He'll like get some sort of like phrase, that you see on like a bumper sticker or something like that, and just kind of shout it at you, and that's the chorus. All his choruses are like, "This is the chorus," or like that. However, I actually think this is kind of one of his best songs. I weirdly like this, and I don't really know why. I think he delivers it with a certain amount of sass, especially with the parts with the lower vocal bits, when he's like, "Men came up to me and men dead," or whatever it is. And I was kind of digging that. He plays the thing off with a bit more attitude, and and I like that. We see a bit more sass, a bit more attitude in this song than he has done in other songs.
Mm-hmm.
I ragged on his choruses before about how he writes choruses, but this one isn't terrible. It's okay. He's still doing the thing where he's just kind of shouting it at you. He's like, "The chorus," but it's got another great guitar solo. Like, it's dumb. It's basically about nothing. But I guess it's kind of got a vibe. The ending is funny as well. The ending is pretty funny.
You got that right. You got that right.
A better one from Gene. Not too shabby. Who wants to go next? Does anyone want
I'll go on this one.
Has anyone got any strong feelings about "Thou Shalt Not"? Alex, then. Actually, no. Danny, you go.
Alex, you go.
No. Danny, you go.
No. I'm going to go.
My thoughts could wait.
I'm gonna go again.
Could wait.
This song sounds like a Jack Black song. All right, Alex, off you go. Do you love it?
No, I'll just go because, honestly, my thoughts are kind of similar to you, Alexei.
Oh, good.
Overall,
I was not
this isn't
expecting
that
that.
bad.
I
And
was
I
not
can tell
expecting
Danny's
that.
going to freaking cloud on this one. It is really, really silly. And I didn't write Jack Black, but I said this is giving major musical theatre vibes of like, a mean teacher disciplining his students. And then thou shalt not.
Yeah, can I tell you that the Jack Black reference that I was going for? Because there are different vibes. It wasn't Tenacious D, it was more School of Rock that I was going for. Like the song they sing. It's like, "Then
I can
that
see
magic
it.
man, he came to town." That was kind of the vibe I was going for. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, that chorus, the repetition, and just sort of like here is the character I'm wanting to portray. It's so one-dimensional, sort of thing. And some very musical theatre vibe from it. I don't like the chorus. I think it's just kind of what you were saying, Alexei, about the way he writes these. That it's just so oversimplistic. But I do think like there's something about this song that Gene really believes, and like what he's singing about, and like the kind of way he sings it.
There's a deep sincerity.
It's not great. It's still not great singing, but yeah, there's sincerity there, and I don't mind that, and I think The intro's fun. The drums sound great on it. It's got another wicked solo. Very happy with the solo on it. And that's kind of it. I think for Gene, this is not a bad one, and it suits him. Like I say, I can tell this one, he put a bit more into it. Though, yeah, again, I think to add something a bit more to the chorus. I don't know, make it go somewhere. Really silly song. And Danny,
interesting.
Say something nice about it.
My cat is biting my notepad. I go, fuck off, you fucking bitch. All right, Danny, what do you think?
Shout thou shalt not to it. Maybe they'll get him to listen.
Danny, what do you think?
I was more in two minds about the subject matter, because one half of me is so on board. I'm like, you tell him, Gene.
What's it about?
And there's songs about this that I like, that I find very agreeable. But at the same time, I do... And look, anyone can make any point they want at any time, but he did kind of take his time to make this point, and it does feel a little safer in 92 to make this point.
Yeah, that's so
Than
true.
before. And there's... Yeah, so I don't know. Overall, I want to just say, hell yeah, Gene, you tell him. You tell him.
That's us. He'll do what he wants.
Other than that, the song is nothing. I don't really feel anything for the song, except for the guitar solo. I agree. I love how much wah there is.
Yeah, a lot of wah.
He's killing it. Must be Slash's influence. And the weird... I heard there was a Hall of the Mountain King quote in the solo. It is like a little... Not the whole thing, but it's thrown in. I'm sure I heard that. Maybe I'm projecting that. And I don't know... Again, a bit like the Star Spangled Banner. I don't quite know why, but I preferred that.
Could be.
It fit.
Maybe it's Bob Ezrin sending them to musical school or whatever he did back in the day.
Oh, yeah, he was like, you need to put a classical reference. The way he shouts, I'm going to live my life, is really funny and quite cute. And he's just obsessed with the word bitch now. You mentioned this, Alexei.
He is, you're right.
He's all over
He said the word bitch twice on this album. Every single album, bar
Yeah.
many goes, listen, bitch, I got news. Burn, bitch, burn.
So I didn't hate this one because it's got a good solo and I'm sort of behind the message. But apart from that, I wasn't feeling it.
Okay.
Really, as an overall song.
Is it better?
So,
Is it
next.
better or worse than Get Lucky by Daft Punk?
It's worse than Get Lucky by Daft Punk, but I don't imagine Richard Dawkins rocks out to Get Lucky by Daft Punk. That's my point. I feel like he puts Thou Shalt Not on every day.
Yeah, man.
And just headbangs.
Thanks. Every time I look at you by Paul. This is a tender
By Paul.
tender sort of ballad. I think Bob Ezrin co-wrote it as well. Bob Ezrin co-wrote apparently a few songs on this track, on this album. Who should we start with? Let's start with you, Danny, because you went last, buddy.
It's one of those ones that starts. I've said it before. I'm like, yeah, come on, Paul, take me away. Let's go for the real high emotion here. It is so similar to that song. It's like, I can't fight the feeling anymore. Do you know which song I mean?
Yeah, it's REO Speedwagon.
Melodically. Yeah, it's REO Speedwagon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've forgotten what I started fighting for. Just falls flat on as being as good as that song. But it's a good chord structure to use. He's tried to do a sort of more gruff accent than he has. Or not accent, like his voice. Like he's trying to be a bit Springsteen.
Yeah.
Not quite. It's not his ballpark. I thought I've got nothing else to say other than I don't know. It's fine. You've done better, Paul. Give it to Peter. That's what I put.
Oh, that would have been
Alexei, what do you
sweet.
think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Alexei, go on. Oh, or Alex.
I think of all the 80s power ballads, right, which is Reason to Live and Forever as sort of the main two, because really on that run of albums before Crazy Nights there really aren't any power ballads. Do you know what I mean? At least in the traditional sense. I mean, the closest thing you can sort of get to it is "I Still Love You," but that's too down. That's more kind of tragic. That's more just like a straight up ballad. Of all those songs, this "Reason to Live" and "Forever," this is by far the worst. I think out of those three. I think it's too twee for me. The chorus just really isn't there for me. There wasn't really much of a chorus, particularly for a power ballad. The power ballad is the chorus. Do you know what I mean? This doesn't really have it. Paul doesn't really sound great either. I think he sounds like he's singing it in a weird key. He sounds like he's holding back a bit, and I want to hear him belt on something like this. And he does a little bit towards the end, but it's not really enough. Like, I think the ending is awkward as well. It doesn't really know how to end. It has like 2 false endings. Do you know what I mean? There's like a pause and he goes, "'Cause you're everything to me." And then it comes in again with just the strings. And then there's another pause and you're like, oh, it's ended. And then you just hear him go, "'Cause you're everything to me." Like, oh, okay, it's still going. And it just sounds awkward. I really hope someone edits a version where that just goes round and round.
The next track starts and finishes and then...
"'Cause you're everything to me."
I really hope someone edits a version where it goes on for an hour and it's just the song, and then the last 57 minutes are just "'Cause you're everything to me." They just sort of those endings just kind of sound like a joke, to be honest. Also, I know saying lyrics are cliched, right, is quite in itself quite a cliched criticism, and I understand that it's thrown around quite a lot. However, I do think it's quite apt here. The lyrics are some of the most cliched paint by numbers. "I love you, I miss you still, you make my heart beat," kind of, cornbally sort of stuff. And I don't use that lightly. Like, it's quite easy to throw that at a song, but I think this one, it really is very, very sort of general and vague. I also think that the orchestration doesn't really sound that lush. It sounds quite cheap to me. I was not really a fan of this one. I think they can do a lot better. I think it's quite messy. I think it's quite clunky. I think it sounds quite cheap. Don't really like his vocals. The ending is hilarious. And yeah, not for me. Even the title. Do you know what I mean? I mean, to be fair, "I Still Love You" is quite cringe, on the nose, but it's just delivered with so much fucking piss and vinegar and venom that it sort of supersedes that. This hasn't really got that. It's too sweet for me, too sickly for me. Alex, what are you saying, mate?
I can't. This song is kind of ass. It's not very good at all.
It's rubbish. Do you think anyone...
It is. I think you guys are too nice to it. I think this is really bad. I think this is really bad.
Do you think anyone has played this at their wedding?
I've got it on Spotify now. It's got 16 million plays.
Really?
So it's hold on. It's the second most played track after. Well, I suppose there's not much to choose from this album. It's somebody's playing it, but it's so nothingy. I think the instrumentation sounds really bad. Like the guitar at the beginning just sounds so cheap. I don't know how to put it. It does. Yeah, you're right. The strings don't really work, and it feels very forced. Paul doesn't sound great on it. It just doesn't suit him. I have no problem with cliches whatsoever, and we got a lot of cliches on "God Gave Rock and Roll to You," and they work there. It fits them. It fits the type of song they're doing. They believe it. And it powers through. Here, I don't think Paul really has his heart in this song. The lyrics are, there's not much to them. I did write, don't quite have Michael Bolton around anymore, do we, Paul?
No.
Because these songs are hard to write. They're hard to write a hit for. And I think with the Forever on the last one, I think needed old Michael on that one.
That's still not one of his best, though, is it? Even Forever, we were like, nah, it kind of works.
No,
it's still not great. I think I think it's testament to his personality, right? That You know, when he is trying to write tender songs about women, they don't work nearly as well as when he writes songs about how he kind of not dislikes women. That's the wrong term. But when he's kind of heartbroken and when he's got an axe to grind or something like that.
Bitterness.
1,000,000 to 1. I still love you. Who wants to be lonely? You know what I mean? Like these work so much better. When he writes things like Hold Me, Touch Me, Never Far Apart, you know, off his solo album, the really, really twee one.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And this, you know, when he's trying to be more tender, so they don't work nearly as well. I just think it's testament to his personality and the kind of person that he is. That
Women have to be adversarial.
exactly.
Is exactly what I was saying. I don't think his heart's in this. I think, like I said, he wrote Forever with Michael Bolton. That was a hit. And so he felt, okay, yeah, I can do that again. And he doesn't quite have it in him in this album. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it's just too much. I mean, even a little the ending of the track doesn't work. And it has those little, it's so very 90s, those little plucky guitar, bling, bling. It's just too much, really. Yeah, I don't like the song at all.
I didn't like it either. I think it's good. I think it's rubbish.
I loved it. It made me cry.
It made me cry. Have you been turning to your girlfriend since you watched this and going,
Every time I hold you, 'cause you're everything to me.
To me.
'Cause you're everything to me.
Yeah.
keeping her up? She's trying to sleep, and you just lean in and go,
'Cause you're everything to me.
Really loudly in her ear.
'Cause you're everything to me.
The next track is called Paralyzed. Right, this. I was so into this when it kicked in. I was like, fuck yes.
Sick intro.
Fuck yes, this is a sick intro. That groove and the wah and the production, everything sounded fat, heavy, slamming. And then Gene started singing, and the song just gets let down significantly. They're doing that same pausey. Danny, you might be able to describe it better than me because you're better at music theory and stuff like that. But they're doing that pausey thing that blues musicians do. You know, they did on Spit, where there's a pause, dun, they guess do on War Pigs and something like that. You know, when it's or on Fleetwood Mac's early stuff. You know, when there's they kind of keep the hi hat going and some guys saying shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
A bit with the bed all right, but you come and hit me and it feels all right. All right. That thing. Right.
I don't know the term for that.
I don't know what it's called, but they're doing that thing as well, and it just dates it. It dates it, the whole bluesy vibe. You don't need it. You don't need it. Paul should have sung this one. Again, it's better for Gene, but I was disappointed. It wasn't the song I wanted it to be, especially the bridge. The bridge dates it so much. It's amazing how hard Gene tries sometimes to date his own music. It's like the rest of the band is trying, particularly in this song, to make it sound current. And Gene is just wrestling it back into the past. It's got a weird sample in the middle. I don't know what that is. I would like to know what it is. I probably should have looked it up. If any of you guys do know what that sample is of, please tell me. It's probably nothing to do with the song. They probably just thought, it kind of sounds kind of cool. Maybe makes it sound a bit more current. I guess it's a better Gene cut. I suppose it's all right, particularly for him. It's okay, but massive disappointment from the intro. The intro killed, and then it just went off a cliff. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that in the sense that you could tell they purposely chose this song to come after. Every time I look at you to be okay, we've
Bring
had that.
it back to the
Boom,
heavy
let's
vibe.
get back to rock. Yeah, which I quite liked. It was, sort of okay, we hear something different. Okay, Gene, let's see what have you got, sort of thing. And then it very quickly fades away, I say, when he starts singing, and this very, just very flat kind of singing. Full, the whole song. The vocals are very flat and the harmonies are as well. And then there's so many switch ups and breakdowns. And there's just no momentum for it. It's always switching all the time and none of it quite works. And it doesn't build upon each other very well. Just too many stops and starts. And so the track sort of finishes, and it's just sort of
There's
like,
no
oh
momentum.
well, yeah, like you don't really, you never fully get into it. And of course, just Gene repeating "all right" so many times throughout the song is really irritating.
That's that, doesn't it? All right.
Yeah, really annoying hook. Yeah, I was ready to rock out with this one, and it didn't live up to it.
Did not
so
deliver,
not
did
a
it?
great one.
No, didn't deliver. Danny, what are you saying, mate?
I wrote like exactly the same thing as you, Alexei, about the
Yeah.
start. I was like, this sick
So
intro.
good.
And we've got Gene doing a silly voice. And that's it. The song goes off a cliff. I'm happy you guys said so much about it because I was getting a little bit hot in the shade, phasing out here. I really was. I couldn't keep my attention.
Mate,
I could not
Danny,
keep attention with this
it's a
song.
longer Kiss album. It's not. It's 10 minutes
It is.
shorter. 10 minutes shorter than Hot in the Shade. Don't get me wrong. Those 10 minutes go.
Yeah,
those
it
10
is.
minutes go a long way. Because for Kiss, 10 minutes is like how long? 4 or 5 songs, round about that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So that does go a long way.
3 or 4.
But
yeah.
it's still not like like it feels like a longer one.
It does. It's got a very meaningless riffy middle eighth, which is very Gene. And Bruce's magnificent ability cannot lift the song this time. I have nothing to say. It was boring and I phased out. It's a boring Gene song.
Cool.
Good intro though. So we can move on.
I just wanna, Paul. This is the closer. Wait, no. Sort of the closer. What do you count as the closer?
I don't think it's the.
Because do you?
Okay, well I know what you
You
mean.
know what I mean.
Okay.
You know what I mean. Not if it was, yeah. I guess of like the album. This is the closer, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I guess that's up for debate. We can decide that later. I just wanna, Paul. Danny, fill me in. Jizz on my
Again,
face.
There's a bit of phasing out. Well, okay. I was phasing out a bit, but Paul always brings my attention back a bit, and it's got a big kind of intro, so I was kind of going, "Oh yeah, come on, Paul, let's go." But that chorus is a bit too Motley Crue for 1992. I thought.
Ooh, good choice. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't think.
I wasn't feeling it. I just more sick ass guitar work, blah blah blah, in between everything I'm not into. I put in my notes, Paul is on such a breakdown kick, but actually that's just Bob Ezrin, isn't it? You pointed
That-
it out, Alexei. That's definitely just
That is
Bob
Bob
Ezrin.
Ezrin to a T. 100% that's
Yeah.
Bob Ezrin. That
Um,
part.
when I was listening to it, I thought he was saying, "I just want to fuck." Is that the joke?
Yeah, I
Yes.
You know, before he
think
says,
it's the joke. Yeah.
right, is that the joke? Okay. Well, that's very clever, Paul. I don't know. It's fine, not great.
Why wasn't
he's-
Paul? But why wasn't Bob Ezrin stopping them from doing this sort of thing? He was so
Paul's not-
adamant about them not.
He's very
doing it.
suck me, fuck me for Paul, yeah.
Yeah, I think probably more so this album than like maybe the previous two. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I've just
Yeah, probably.
noticed it more. But like they say lyric shit about women, but they won't say shit like "take it off" or "I just want to fuck." I just want to fuck. Like it's like
Maybe after the Elder, Bob lost a lot of power in sort of the in the recording studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So they weren't like hanging on to his every word with that stuff.
maybe he just didn't care as much.
I don't have anything else to say about it. It's overall a pretty disappointing song, and it sounds dated. So Alex, what do you think?
Very similar way to what was the track. Take It Off. I think it comes from the same place, and like you were saying, it feels like a track from decades before. The sort of attitude, the tone that Paul is going for, but it's not as good. It's kind of a worse version of it. The middle eight sort of it's not a cappella, but the vocal harmony breakdown bit isn't as good. I think Paul's voice is a bit too much on here, like especially like the way the track starts. It's just like so in your face and a little bit like whiny. I don't think it's a great start. I think, and it's quite funny. Yeah, I don't really like this one. Yeah, again, the solo's good. They kind of like throw the harmony part in the middle and sort of mix it up, but it is a bit boring, and we have a go at Gene for continuing to sing about the things that he does. I just think it's funny that, again, Paul's in his 40s now, and he still sounds so childish and bitter and over the top as he still does. It's a Paul track. What can I say? Yeah, I don't think this is particularly great. Disappointing was the word used, Danny, and I agree with that.
Disappointing. Yeah, I think this is kind of annoying. Again, Bob Ezrin just takes the fucking wheel during the middle A, and it becomes like the fucking Beach Boys. It becomes the Beach Boys in the middle. That middle A is got nothing to do with the rest of the song. Oddly enough, that part, the Beach Boys part, was cut from the single version, strangely enough. Can't think why. The chorus is catchy, but not really in a good way. In quite an annoying way. Like, I just don't get, why does it turn into the Beach Boys? I don't understand why it turns into the Beach Boys. And you wonder if Bob Ezrin was just taking the piss a bit. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, it'll be absolutely fucking hilarious. I'll get them to do. I'll get them to do this, like, Beach Boys harmony bit with, like, ebos and stuff in the background. That'd be hilarious. Like, it feels like, as well, the build style, the build after that stylistic change back into the verse should be longer. It's just kind of like 2 hits and then it's back into the verse, and you're like, oh, thanks, okay, thanks for that, cheers. It's a weird one. I'm not really a fan of it. It's quite annoying. Paul's voice is irritating on it as well, same way it was on Take It Off. Too nasally, too high. No, I don't like it. I put weird closer if it counts as a closer, because after this, we've got Car Jam. This is a nice little tribute. I actually, I don't mind that. Well, you guys might not be aware, but originally, because this is a recording of when Eric first joined the band. It might be an audition, I'm not quite sure, but it's a recording of him just jamming. And originally, this had Ace's guitar on it. Ace did a guitar solo on it. But they took it out. They took it out, and they got Bruce. And they got Bruce to overdo Ace's solos. To be honest with you, though, I don't mind that, because I actually associate Bruce more with Eric, and I see it fitting that they would put him on the track, because I feel like they shared a lot more creatively. I associate them a lot more together. They worked together longer. That lineup, Eric, Bruce, Gene, and Paul, that's their lineup. That's the quite a consistent lineup, and that pairing between Bruce and Eric are one that I associate quite closely together. So that makes sense to me, and I'm happy with that. And I think his solo is really good. I think his drum solo is wicked. I don't think it's not super flashy, but it's quite musical. It builds. It builds really, really nicely. When he boots off, he really, 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 really is ripping. Like, he obviously has chops. He doesn't overdo it. He builds nicely, and and he plays with absolute fire at the end. I think at the end, when he's just completely fucking blasting and he's got the double kicks going, he sounds absolutely great. It's a really good tribute. I'm actually it's weirdly sensitive for them to have put this on the album, to be honest with you. But it is a good tribute, and I also think that the riffs that they put on the album, the riffs they put on this song that they were jamming out are quite good. They're quite good riffs, and it's a shame that they weren't on a Kiss album at any point. I think this is fantastic. It's a great drum solo and a nice tribute to him, and quite a sweet way of ending an album. In many ways, Bar Thief in the Night of Crazy Crazy Nights, which is an absolute banger. This might be one of their best closers, even though it doesn't necessarily fit the bill of a closer necessarily. Well, maybe it does. Maybe this is, it's a different kind of closer. It's nice. It's very, very nice. Danny, what do you think, mate?
Very similar to you, man. I thought this is a really good jam, especially for Kiss. I thought, who's playing on it? I didn't look up. What is? So you said it. So Bruce is playing guitar.
Gene on bass.
Obviously, Eric's on drums.
Paul on guitar.
Gene's on bass. Is Paul there?
Yes.
Is Paul playing
Paul's
rhythm?
I believe Paul is playing rhythm.
Oh, that's very sweet. The playing in the drum solo is really nice. Like you said, Alexei, it's a great solo, and it's a rare sweet moment for this band, and it's just as we already discussed, it's a very sad story, and I think this is a really nice send off. Alex?
Yeah, I agree. It was an unexpected, sweet moment, and it also sounds good as well. It wasn't just like a really rough sort of like recording, and it's like just the drums. Like the little riff, especially at the end, the way it sort of signs off, it's good, and Eric sounds really good on it. Not much more to say about it, but I really like that they put it on.
It's good. It is good. It's very sweet. Again, like you said, a rare, tender, sensitive moment from them. Overall thoughts before we rank it. I think this might be their best sounding album. There's a lot of low end on it, and all the guitar tones are sweet. Sonically, I think this is one of their heaviest albums. However, it's the songs themselves that aren't. I think it sounds heavy, but the songs themselves, for the most part, aren't. I mean, bar Unholy and maybe Heart of Chrome. Other than that, it's just a lot of AC/DC. It's a lot of Zeppelin. But, having said that, the production is good. I do think this has aged much better than their other records. Much, much better. This is the way it sounds. It still sounds pretty good even today. It holds up well. It sounds great on headphones. Gene as a whole is better on this album. Paul, I don't think is actually at his best on this. I think he delivers okay, but it's not up to his usual standards. On a better Kiss album, there should be at least 2 Paul bangers, and it's kind of only God Gave You, which is the big banger of this, and that's Paul and Gene, and plus it's a cover. Bruce is wonderful on this. Bruce is great. His guitar work, is
don't forget Vinny.
Really, really snarly and dirty, and Vinny puts in a good shift as well. It's really snarly and noisy. I can see what you mean about him just wanting to go for the throat a little bit more. His guitar playing's more about tone and serving the song. It's really, really nice. For the time, it's really, really current. Well, not stylistically, not the genres that they're melding, but just in terms of how it sounds, how it's produced. And in that way, it stops it sounding super dated. Eric Singer is fine. He doesn't really get a chance to do much, and I think as his time with them continues, I think he has less and less to do because, as we know, not to give too much away, he has to, as part of his job, ape a certain style, which means he has to be quite limited in what he plays. So we don't get to see that from him, but I'm sure he's great. There's a lot of okay on this. There's one terrible song, kind of 2, really. Every time I look at you, it's not great. It's quite bad, actually. So it's 2 terrible songs, 1 hilarious song, and kind of 1 banger. And that's it. I think when we look at the ranking, it sort of goes like... above Animalize.
This one's hard.
I think so.
Above Animalize, below Asylum. It's between Animalize and Dynasty. I don't think it's better than Dynasty. It sort of fits there.
Oh, okay.
Not better
So
than
it's
Dynasty.
either number 7, number 8, or number 9 for me. But however, Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. It's somewhere around there. I can be persuaded either way. Alex, what are your feelings?
Yeah, it's yeah. Overall, I'm disappointed with this album because we've had a big break between their last album, and a lot has happened at that time, especially with Eric. So I suppose you have to take that into account a little bit. But I was kind of hoping for something new, and we did get that in some parts. But I was majorly disappointed in how they reverted back, particularly Paul. I think Paul went back to familiar places that he didn't need to go to, and are frankly not his best areas as well. And for that, mostly I'm disappointed with the songwriting from Gene and Paul. But if in terms of like just listening to the album back to front, I think it's one of the more enjoyable experiences. Like again, like the kind of production, we're getting to a more modern age now, and it's easier to listen to. But also, it doesn't always work, but it's a more interesting listen. The random sort of Bob Ezrin stuff, I quite like. Because I mean, I do feel as though we're taking it a little bit for granted, as like, you know, we had Hot and Shade last time, and like during that album we were just crying for just moments of interest, just something to happen. And so now we've got an album which does have them, and I want to sort of say, you know, give it its moment, say I appreciate it. For ranking it though, it's so tough though, because the more we do this, the more I get frustrated with them in their songwriting, because I know, like, especially Paul can do better. I know Paul can do better, and so I'm being more negative as we go along because of that. Because I think this sounds better than Destroyer. Like you guys are saying, oh, it doesn't go. I think this sounds better than.
Yeah, it sounds
like
better than Destroyer, but it sounds better than Destroyer. But to be honest with you, Destroyer's got better songs on it though. Shout It Out Loud is better than most of the stuff off this.
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
You know, or, you know, I mean, obviously it sounds better, but Destroyer's also a really old album. Like, Detroit Rock City sounds better than most of the shit off this. Fucking Beth is way better than fucking Every Time I Look at You. Like, Do You Love Me, again, better than most of the stuff off this. I don't think we're looking up near Destroyer. Lick It Up as well.
I think we're looking around
track, there. All Hell's Breaking Loose, and it has 1,000,000 to 1, which is one of their best songs. So it's not that. Dynasty, again, you know, Dirty Living's pretty good. Save Your Love's all right. The two hits, fucking Sure Know Something and I Was Made for Loving You, better than most of the stuff off this. You know, you know what I mean?
I think we're looking in that area because this is a few songs like, and I'd say overall this was a more enjoyable listen than a lot of those, like from start to end,
like consistently.
And yeah,
yeah.
There was always a solo. There was always a sort of riff or something that I latched onto. And when looking at the Paul solo album, parts of Destroyer, parts of Lick It Up, and Dynasty, like, they didn't always have those. So what I'm saying is it's difficult. It's difficult to.
It's hard. They're so
inconsistent.
It's difficult because they're also inconsistent with their songwriting. Because I just gave 3 good songs of Lick It Up as an example, but those last 3 on Lick It Up are fucking rubbish.
Exactly.
And there's nothing. I think you're right. Because there's nothing as bad on Domino.
We put Domino in the Kiss bin, but like actually, Domino sounds better than.
Yeah, but it's still Domino as a song is worse than those last 3 off Lick It Up. But then Lick It Up's also got, like, you know, Not For the Innocent. That's really fucking bad as well. Like, that's fucking hard. Maybe Danny.
I think we've been too generous to not put songs in the Kiss bin in the past.
Oh
the past
man,
decade.
I wanted to put the last 3 of Lick It Up in the Kiss bin, but we can, you know,
maybe we should do that.
We can table emotion at some point to do that. Danny, why don't you can you make sense of this?
Help us out.
I'm gonna complicate things even
more.
more.
Oh no, were you gonna put it as number 1? That'd be funny.
I think we need to be careful with the word, with the phrase "sounds better." Right. Everything on this album is mixed and produced better than anything we've had in the past. Clearly, the best mixed and mastered album. But that is all I'm saying. The performances are not better on this album. The songwriting, as you said, Alex, is definitely not particularly great on this album. What is good is that they're like doing overdubs and stuff. The parts are clear. There's punch. There's crisp tones, and it sounds good. But we've got to be. I think we have to be careful with that phrase when we say like, "Oh, this album just sounds better."
Yeah.
It does not sound better. Good songs sound better. Really, and I know I'm splitting hairs, but I'm being a bit semantic, but I think we have to be careful when we say sounds better. This album is very weird to me, because it does sound like they've gone back to the 70s to try and finally do a half-decent job of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's too little too late.
Absolutely.
Them holding this album...
I was going to say you make an excellent point, because, it sounds better. Like, everything on this album sounds better than Love Gun sounds, if you're going from a production point. But Love Gun as a song is way better than anything off this. Way better.
Absolutely. That's my point. My point is that a good mix does not a good album make. And them holding this album in high regard, to me, might show how shallow they go, or how shallow they are when they rate their own music. Because this album just, it's like more professional, for sure. Like, this album sort of matches the vibe of the Kiss brand that the Kiss brand has been failed to sell so many times, because it sounds professional. It's their most normal album, for better or worse, I would say. This is the most normal sounding Kiss album ever. I would still prefer a theatrical, shock rock, slightly experimental, Alice Cooper-y sound from them than any of this stuff. I mean early Alice Cooper, because he went the same direction actually around this time. So honestly, when I'm looking at the list here, I think below Asylum, Animalize, I'm looking around Dress to Kill, Love Gun. So we are so split, the three of us here. I think this is I'm looking at songs. What is a killer track on this album?
God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
God Gave Rock and Roll to You is.
It's a cover.
Yeah, it still kills though.
It's a song that they wrote.
Yeah, but they made it their own.
I don't think
like
it
their
kills.
version is better. Like their version, not better. Sorry, in my opinion, it's better. But I mean, their version is better known. As in, a lot of people that are aware of that song would have assumed it was their song. I did not know that song was a cover for the fucking longest time.
Same, yeah. I don't think God Gave Rock and Roll to You lifts this album nearly enough.
I think it lifts it above Dress to Kill.
Sweet.
It's better than Dress to Kill. I don't like Dress to Kill.
I don't know if it's better
Dress
than
to Kill has
this album.
nothing. The best song of Dress to Kill is Come On and Love Me. And that's nowhere near as good as God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Or as good as Spit.
I always say I really like that second last track on Dress to Kill.
Which one was that?
Is it Love for All You Can? I'm the only one who liked it, I think.
Which one is that?
About her. That's all I remember.
Okay, well, I definitely think it should go above Dress to Kill. Okay, what's Animalize got going for it? Animalize has Thrills in the Night.
Alex made a point about like how Revenge, like, it's got like, at least it's got these good riffs and solos. We've had a decade of good riffs and solos, and I don't think this album stands out at all. How much have I been jizzing all over Vinnie, Mark, and Bruce's guitar playing? I think this album is below Asylum and Animalize as far as guitar work goes. Because he does less. He's not on it as much.
I don't think it's as good as Dynasty. And Asylum
Definitely
has...
I don't think we're even... Yeah, I would argue around these two A albums because they're quite similar in my mind. Like, I don't remember why we put
let me look at Asylum.
Animalize or anything.
I think it was splitting hairs. I would put this at number... I would put this between them. I'm happy with that. I was saying...
We might have to let Alexei decide, Alex, because we're very polarized.
I was thinking it had to go somewhere between Dynasty and Animalize. I think that's what I said initially. and I agree. I think it's got to
Yeah,
go. It's either number 8, 9, or 10.
That's what
I
I'm
think
thinking.
it would. I'd put it there.
It can't be higher than Dynasty. I'll
No,
put
no,
my
no,
foot
no,
down
no,
on
no,
that.
no.
Okay,
It's not as
fine.
good as Dynasty. It's not as good as Dynasty. Stick it in.
Would you put it? Where would you put it, Danny? In terms of Asylum and Animalize, would you put it under those two? Is that what you're saying?
Let me look at the track.
Oh no, I was going to put it in
In my
between.
memory, just going off the initial vibe, I would put it below both of them, obviously. Because I just feel like those two albums had more masturbatory shredded guitar that I like, as well as at least a couple more anthemic choruses, like let's just have a look. Why did we put Asylum above Animalize?
No,
must have been a
I looking at it
reason.
now.
Animalize has
I think Asylum is better than Animalize. Asylum has more of the shreddy and like heavy drums that you're saying than
Does it?
Animalize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Asylum has Who Wants to Be Lonely on
Okay.
it. That's one of their best songs. It's got Who Wants to Be Lonely on it. It's a bit more shreddy. It's the first one with Bruce. It's
Okay, I'm looking at this. We're putting this above Animalize. I'm saying we under Asylum above Animalize, because
I'll settle on that.
Yeah,
I'll settle
I'll
on
go for
that.
that. I'll go for that. Oh, I don't know. Animalize
Yeah.
has got Thrills in the Night on it though. That's a banger. All right, yeah, let's put it there. That's fine. I can live with that.
all right.
Me too.
Cool. Slip it in there. Well, there you go.
It's in.
Revenge goes in at number 10. Next time's going to be a peculiar one because the timelines is all getting mixed up at this point. It's all getting mixed up.
Oh.
There's an album being
Wait.
recorded, but then it gets shelved because at the same time as they're recording it, something else happens. Then you've got them unplugged. What do we do first? I actually have an idea for what we can do, but we can discuss it once this is. What should we sing on the way out?
The breakdown of God Gave Rock and Roll.
Oh, should we deal with the harmonies? I'll do Paul.
It's gonna be beautiful, yeah. Even though it's a 2-part harmony, I think we'll have
We
to
can make it work. Okay.
make it through.
Okay.
Okay.
You ready? 3, 2,
Yeah.
1.
Okay.
God gave rock to you, to give rock to be so he wrote to everyone.
I know life can be hard sometimes, and I know, but everyone's got our own road, and that road is rock and